Hello everyone, so here we're working on a e-commerce system. So now we're gonna start with the backend for the part for the authentication, and also we're gonna start with the setting up our environment and maintaining our configurations. So what we're gonna do here, the first thing that we need to do, what I need you first of all to make sure that you have installed the Python either 3.12 or maybe 3.11. It will work for you. And also make sure that you have the Python 3.11 virtual environment, and make sure that you have installed PostgreSQL and PostgreSQL contrib and also Redis server. Okay, so if you are not familiar with this setting up the environment, I'm gonna link to my YouTube channel where you can be able to check how to set up the environment, because we'll be using in the backend we'll be using Django. So that is the Python framework for our API, and then for the front end we'll be using Flutter. So I have a link to how to set up the environment in Ubuntu. So but you can also check online how to set up those things in your, if you're using Mac OS or using Windows. Okay, so or any other distribution for Linux. So what we're gonna do here, the first thing that you need to do, you need to make sure that as we start, make sure that your PostgreSQL, that is our database that we're gonna use, which later we're gonna have we're gonna introduce the PG vector for the vector database to allow us to do the image searches and other things. Okay, so then from there you need to make sure that you have the Redis server that is running in your local machine, and also other things we're gonna continue working on. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to set up our database. We need to set up our project here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, I need to go, first of all I need to go to the development. So development here, I need to create a new directory. So this one will be the one that we'll be using. So we're gonna say the e-commerce. So e-commerce, we're gonna name it e-commerce tutorial. Okay, or e-commerce course. So we need to go to our e-commerce course there. So then from there, so let me first of all clear there. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, make sure that you enable your PostgreSQL Redis server. Like currently you can see mine, it is running. So when you say Redis CLI, then you say ping. So ping should return pong. Okay, so mine it is running. Make sure that yours also is running. So what we need to do, first of all, you need to set up the database. So you can use the PG admin if you have you want to use the UI one, or you can use the terminal, because currently I'm using terminal here. So what I'm gonna do, first of all, I need to say sudo, then we're gonna say then we're gonna say Postgres. So we are opening the our PostgreSQL. Okay, so then from there it will ask for the password, so you need to enter your password. So now we have entered there. So what we need to do, first of all, we need to create database. So to create a database, you just say create, then you're gonna say database. So database, then we're gonna give it the name of your database. So we're gonna say fashion. So we're gonna name it fashion e-commerce. So e-commerce, gonna name it course. Okay, e-commerce course, like that. So make sure that you put semicolon there. So this one, we create the database. So it has created the database. So what we need to do also, now we need to create the user. So we're gonna say, so to create the user, just say create. You can say create user. So user, then we're gonna name it fashion. User. So we're gonna say also, you need to make sure that you have the password. So the password that we're gonna use here, so we're gonna say password. So password here, you're gonna use a simple one. So we're gonna name it Gentech at 1 2 3 4. Okay, so that is it. So now we have created that user with that. So the next thing that we need to do, we need to alter the role so that to give it some privileges so that we'll be able to access it and also to do the migrations. So here we're gonna say alter. So we're gonna say alter. So we're gonna say alter role, even though we're gonna give the markdown files here for testing, because also you need to remember that you need to have Postman in your system. So because you'll be using it to do a lot of tests, so we're gonna leave the markdown in the link, so which you're gonna get it from the GitHub. Okay, so that one will be there, and also even the setup here you can just copy it from that markdown. I'm gonna leave there. So and also the code that I'm gonna put there so that we'll be able to compare, so I'll be saying when to use it. Okay, so here you need to alter the role. So alter role, so our fashion user, so fashion user here we need to set, okay, to set now the client encoding. So client encoding, we're gonna set it to UTF-8. okay, UTF-8, like that. Then you need to do what, to put semicolon there. So then the next thing that you need to do, we need to do what, we need first of all to confirm whether we created the other one. So create that one. Okay, so then after we do that, now we need to alter the role again. So alter role, then we say fashion user. So fashion user, we need to set the default transaction isolation. Gonna say default, not this one. Gonna say default transaction. So transaction isolation. So isolation, we're gonna set it to what? Gonna set it to read committed. Okay, read committed, like that. So then from there you put that semicolon there. So then also we need to do what? We need to alter the role again. So then we're gonna use what? We're gonna set the time zone, okay, the one that we want to use here, so that we'll be able to have the correct time zone in our application. So we're gonna say alter role. So we're gonna say fashion user. So alter role, so fashion user. So fashion user here. So here we need to set time zone. So I'm gonna use the one that I'm currently in. So I'm in Africa, Nairobi. Okay, so I'm gonna say Africa. So where you are, just look for that one, so that you won't have issues with what, with the time, where you're gonna have maybe it is behind with something or forward. So then after we do that, the next thing that we need to do, we need to grant the privileges to our user, on our database, to our user. Okay, so we're gonna say grant. So grant all privileges. So privileges on what? On database. So on database, so we named it fashion. So fashion e-commerce course. Yeah, that is what we named it. So we need to our fashion user. Okay, we're gonna say to, then we're gonna say fashion user. So like that. So then from there we can just exit. So to exit, we just need to say that one. So, or you can just use the Control D to quit. Okay, so like that. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to first of all need to clear this one. So later you're gonna encounter some things with the public schema. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to connect the database as a super user. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I need to set sudo. So I need to go back there. So sudo, then we're gonna open with the user. So we're gonna say there, then we're gonna say Postgres. So Postgres, then we're gonna say PSQL. So then we're gonna say we're gonna open with our database. So fashion e-commerce, we named it e-commerce what? Course. Okay, like that. So then you see it will open that database, as you can see here. So it looks like that. So now the next thing that we need to do, now we need to connect the database as a super user. Okay, so first of all, you need to ensure that a user owns the schema. So this is one, it is recommended for development, so this one should not be in the production. Okay, so here you need to say alter. Gonna say alter, so we need to alter the schema. So the schema public, so public, gonna say owner. So this is just to alter it. We're gonna dedicate it to fashion user. Okay, like that. So we have altered the schema. So then from there we need to grant all the privileges on the schema. Okay, so we're gonna say grant. So we're gonna say grant all. We're gonna say grant all on schema. Then we're gonna say public to fashion, to a fashion user. So that is it. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to ensure that the filter tables created by this user are accessible. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, we need to grant all the privileges. Okay, so we're gonna say grant, so grant all privileges. So privileges on what? On all tables in this schema. In this schema, we're gonna say public to our fashion what? We're gonna say to fashion user. Okay, so like that. And also we need to grant all the privileges to the sequences. Okay, so we need to come here, just need to change instead of the schema. Now we need to grant to all what? Schema. This schema should be what? Schema. Then instead of tables here, we need to grant to the sequences. Okay, sequences, like that, to that user. Okay, so that is it. Now we need to do what? To quit. Okay, so to quit, like that. So then we need to do what? To press that Control D. So then after we have done that, now we can be able to do it. Now we need to go to the next part, that is setting our what. So make sure that you have the virtual environment, so that you'll be able to create the virtual environment here, and then you'll be able to do what? To start working on the project. So now after we have done that, the next thing that we need to do, first of all, because now we have our database and we have set up that database, so the next thing that we need to do, we need to work on what? The next thing that we need to do, it is we need to create a new folder here. So we're gonna create a new folder, so make a directory. So we're gonna name it Backend, so because this one will be gonna put the files for backend here. So also we're gonna have the front end. Okay, so here in the backend, we need to go to the backend here. So now we need to create a virtual environment. Okay, so the way you do it, you just do Python. So Python, can say Python 3, then you're gonna have what? The virtual environment. Okay, gonna say that one, then gonna say virtual environment, then we're gonna give the name of the virtual environment. So this one we're gonna name it what? Gonna name it fashion. Gonna name it fashion env. Okay, so let us wait for it to do that. So to create the virtual environment, because we want to do all the things in the virtual environment, to separate the packages that we're gonna install in our development for this application from the system one, so that we won't have any conflict. Okay, so make sure that when you do that, and while developing using Django, make sure that you work on the virtual environment. Now because we have created that one, so if you can do the listing, you can see we have the virtual environment. So what we need to do here, we need first of all to open the virtual environment, so that we'll be able to do what? To create now the project. So we're gonna say, so for you to be able to activate the virtual environment, we just say source. So then we're gonna say fashion, that one, fashion env. So then we're gonna say bin. Then in the bin, now we need to say what? Activate. Okay, so as you can see, this one changes, so make sure that you are familiar with that part. So now after we have done that, now we need to now we need to create the project. And before we create the project, what we're gonna have in this course, we're gonna divide it in multiple parts, where we're gonna have the authentication and user management, we're gonna have the catalog and product management, we're gonna have the cart and checkout, orders and tracking, visual search with clip, AI chat assistant, and also notification system. Okay, so for every part we're gonna have the have the complete Postman test, which I'm gonna leave them also in the GitHub with the markdown, so .md files, so we're gonna be able to see them there. You're gonna have the expected responses, and also gonna have the troubleshooting tips in that link. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do, because we here in the first thing that we're gonna start with working on, we're gonna start with the authentication and user management. So what we're gonna build here is that we're gonna have the user registration, we're gonna have the JWT authentication for login, and also for token refresh, profile management, address management, then also the FCM token registration. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to create a Django project first here. Okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna say Django, so Django, then we're gonna say Django admin, so Django admin. And before you do that, you need to make sure that you have installed Django. Okay, so just first of all, you do what, you say pip, so pip install what, install Django. Okay, so let us wait for it to install, and then we're gonna go to the next part. So as you can see, we have installed Django, so now we need to say Django, so Django admin, so Django admin, then we need to say start project, so start project, so this is our project, so we're gonna name it config, then we're gonna put that, so that we're gonna create this just on the current folder. You want to create another folder. Okay, so that's why I put that dot there, so it has created that one. When you list, you can see that we have the manage.py, and also we have the config. Okay, so after we have done that, now we can be able to, the first thing that I need to do here, I want to create now the accounts. The first application that we want to start, we're gonna start with the accounts, because that is the one that we're gonna do for authentication and user management. So first of all, let us clear that one. So what we're gonna do, we need to say Python. For you to create an application in Django, just say what, Python manage.py, because you have that manage.py there. So then you need to say what, start app, so then we're gonna name it what, accounts. Okay, so this one will be the app that we're gonna put what, we're gonna put the authentication and user management. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, first of all, we need to install some few dependencies. So the first one that we need to install, it is Django REST framework, because that one will help us to be able to do the API. So, and also the Django REST framework SimpleJWT for JSON Web Tokens management. Okay, so we're gonna say pip, so make sure that in your system you have the pip. So we're gonna say install, so install Django, so Django REST framework. Okay, so Django REST framework, and also we're gonna say Django REST framework, so REST framework, then we're gonna say SimpleJWT. Okay, so this one we install the two, so to install the Django REST framework and also the SimpleJWT. Okay, so that is it. Now we need to do what, to clear that one. So now the next thing that we need to do, we need to open now our Visual Studio Code. So what we're gonna do, I'm gonna open it here, just say code, then you put that one, then it will open the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so that we'll be able to start setting up the environment and working on the code. So now, before we go to the Visual Studio Code, in this part we need to do what? First of all, I'm gonna install the .env, so that we'll be able to store our environment variables in the .env file. So what we're gonna do here, I'm gonna say pip install. Even though I'm gonna provide the requirements.txt, you can be able to run it then you're gonna be able to install all the packages that are required in this system. So but it's good for you to be able to follow along so that you understand why we need each package. Okay, so we're gonna say .env. So we need to make sure that you install that one. So remember, you are doing it in the virtual environment. Okay, so that one will install. So now it has successfully installed, so we're gonna clear that one, and now we need to go to our Visual Studio Code, so the one that we have opened. So let us come here. So as you can see here, so here we have the issue, the restricted mode. So I just need to say I trust the others. So as you can see now, it looks like this. So we have this part for the build with agent. So I don't need this one currently, we won't use it, but if you might want to use it, you can just activate it and then you set up. Okay, you finish the setup, so we won't be using that one here. So what we need to do here, we're gonna remove that one. Welcome. So now when you open the config, you can see that we have the ASGI, there is the asynchronous gateway, so interface. So then also we have the settings, the URLs, the WSGI. If you are a beginner in this one, you'll be able to understand for each part where we'll be using it. Okay, so then from there we have the accounts, the one that we created, that one. So as you can see, also as we continue, gonna be able to understand what is happening here. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to start working on this one, settings. So this is where you put all your settings, and then so the first thing that we need to do, we need to clear this one. So just need to clear these comments so that it will be what, it will be clear, so you won't have a lot of comments here. So that's I'm gonna leave them. So what I need to do, first of all, we need first of all to have what, I want to move this one secret key and also debug in .env file. So we need to create a .env file first. So we're gonna say .env, make sure that it is in the main application. Okay, .env file. So as we come here, so the first thing that we need to do, we need to do what, we need to import to load our .env, because this one will be the one that will be responsible to store our environment variables. So the first thing that we need to do here, just below the base directory, we just need to load, gonna say load .env. Okay, so .env, so that it will be accessible. So we're gonna say base, so in the base directory there. So then you put that /, then you need to have the name of the env file. You can have the one for what, for development, and also you can also have the production. So we need to import this one, load.env file. So this one you're gonna get it from the .env that we installed. Okay, so we're gonna say from .env, that one, we need to import we're gonna import load.env. Also we're gonna import OS because we're gonna use it a lot here. So that is it. So after we have done that, now the next thing that we need to do, we need to remove this one, .env file, this one here. I'm gonna cut it, not to copy it, or let me do like this. So let me take all of this one, so I'm gonna copy it instead of cutting. So then I'm gonna put it in what, I'm gonna put it there. So then after doing that, now we need to remove this one. So just come here and you say what, OS. So OS, so first of all I'm gonna remove that OS, then you're gonna say environ. So that is the environment we need to get. Okay, so just say get, then we need to get the way you have named it. So we're gonna name it secret key. Okay, that's how it is named there. So then from there you can just have a default. So get, we just get if it is there. If it is not there, just pass a random one. So we're gonna say your secret key. Okay, so we're gonna change it in what, in production. So then from there we need also to remove this debug. So we're gonna just copy it. So because in production we don't want it to be true. So now after we have done that, now we need to come here. So then this one we're gonna say OS. So we need to say OS so operating system. Then we're going to say environ.get. We need to get, then we need to get the way you have named it. We just named it debug, so debug. So then from there we need to have a default, so the default will be true. So then we need to make sure that we quote to true. Okay, gonna say to true, like that. So that is it. So then the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the part for the allowed host. So this one, gonna copy it. So then you need to come here below, so we're gonna paste it there. Okay, so then from there, so this one we just need to, we're gonna have them as a what, as a comma separated. So we just need to come here first of all. So here we need to do what, so this one gonna put it here in the list, so you can have different allowed hosts that can access your API. So we're gonna say host, we're gonna say host dot what, dot strip. Okay, so host dot strip, like that. Okay, so then from there the next thing that we need to do, we need to say for what, so we need to say for host in what, in os.environ. so environ, then we need to get there. So from the environ we have what, the allowed host. Okay, also then from there we can have default, which can be a local host. You can say 127.0.0.1. okay, like that. Then we need to do what, we need to, so we need to strip it so that we'll be able to get it. So we need to split, so we need to split where we have what, where we have comma. Okay, so that is it. So let me save that one, so it looks like that. So now the next thing that we need to do, we need to add the installed applications, so the ones that we have installed, and also the one that we are planning to, the application that for the local apps and also the third-party apps. So I'll have to separate them. So here I need to say third, so third-party apps. Okay, so then here the one that we have already added, it is the REST framework. I'm gonna say REST framework, so remember that one. So then you need to put comma, and also we have the SimpleJWT, so we're gonna say REST framework, so SimpleJWT. So then from there the next thing that you need to do, I need to have the cross-site request forgery. So the Django calls, the one that's gonna help to prevent that one. So here we're gonna have the calls, so we need to install this one so that we'll be able to do it. So we're gonna say calls headers, so that we'll be able to add it. So that one, before we add it, first of all we need to have the local apps. Okay, so here in the local apps we need to make sure that we have the accounts. So the accounts, then we have the apps. In the accounts we have apps, then you can also have the apps what, so the account, so the accounts config. Okay, so this one will come from, when you come to the accounts you have the apps, and apps you have this one, accounts config. That's where we are getting it, so that's why we are calling it here. So now after we have done that, now we need to do what, because we use the Django course, we need to make sure that you add the middleware here. When you go to the Django course in the browser, when you search it, you'll be able to see that one. So what you need to do here, you need to come here and you make sure that you do what, you add it. Okay, so to add it, you can just add it here. So make sure that it is above the session and the common middleware. So we're gonna say calls, so calls headers, so calls headers dot middleware, so middleware dot calls middleware. Okay, like that. So that is it. So then from there, so you need to make sure that you spell it well, or you can just copy it from that browser where you have that one. So then the next thing that we need to do, we need to come now, we set our database. Okay, so because we want to be using the default one, which it is the SQLite, so we'll be using the PostgreSQL, the one that we set up there before. So what we need to do here, we need to come here in the engine, so we need to change from the SQLite there to what, to PostgreSQL. Okay, so PostgreSQL. Okay, so make sure that you spell it well, PostgreSQL. So then from there, so here we don't, for the name here we need to use the environment. Okay, so we need to put that one in the environment. So we're gonna say os, so os dot what, environ dot get. So we need to get what, we're gonna name it what, here we need to name it db name, so remember that one. But by default we can just have it a fashion because we know what we have. So fashion e-commerce, so fashion e-commerce course. Okay, so that is it. So then from there we need to have the user, so the user of our database, so the one that we created. So we're gonna say os dot what, environ, so environ dot get, then we need to name it db user, so remember that one. So by default you can have the Postgres. Okay, so even though we're gonna use the one that we created, so then from there you can have a password of our database, the one that we created. So we're gonna say os, so os dot what, environ, so environ dot get. Okay, so then we're gonna name it db password. So then we need to do what, we need to say Postgres by default, can name it Postgres. So then from there we need to have the host, so the host gonna say os environ, so environ dot get. So we need to get the db host, so our database host. So by default it is our local host, but you can have it as a different one. So then also we can have a port, so the port that our database it is running and we can use to access it. So we're gonna say os.environ dot what, dot get. Okay, then we're gonna say db port. Then by default Postgres runs on the 5432. That is it. Then we need to have the options. So the options here we need to have as a dictionary. So here we need to have the options. Gonna set it what? Gonna set it to, gonna say what? We need to say C. Then we're gonna say search path. Okay, gonna set it to public, like that. So that is it. So then you can also have a comma here. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, so now we have the database. So then the next thing that we need to do it is to set up our what, our REST framework. Okay, so this one, what we're gonna do, we need to can come just below, can just come below what, can put it where you want, but I'm gonna put it where, let me put it below this one. So let me come here below. So we're gonna say REST framework configuration. So REST framework configuration. So this one, what I'm gonna do, this one we're gonna copy and gonna paste it here. So it is also in the REST framework, so you can copy it. And also you're gonna have the one for SimpleJWT, I'm gonna copy it. And also for the cross origin request forgery settings. Okay, so I'm gonna have them here. So let me copy them and I come here and paste them here. So I need to paste them here so that we'll be able to see them. Okay, so as you can see now we have the issue with time delta. So the first thing that you're gonna look at this one, as you can see we have the default authentication class. So we'll be using the JWT authentication. You can use different one, but currently we're gonna use the JWT, which is better than the default permission classes. We're gonna use the what is authentication, is authenticated or read only. So then the pagination, we're gonna use this for pagination, so which you're gonna find it useful when we'll be doing the pagination. So then from there we have the default filter backends, which we're gonna use the Django filter backend and also the search filter and also the ordering filters. Okay, so then also the default, so this one we're gonna we're gonna have the DRF spectacular, so we're gonna use it. So we need to make sure that we add it in our application. And also we have the throttle rates, that is the anonymous user, so we need it to be 100 per hour. And also for the user, so the one that is authenticated, we have the 1000 per hour. So that's why we have the throttling. We're gonna use the anonymous rate throttle and also the user rate throttle. Okay, so then from here we have the SimpleJWT, so the one that we're gonna use. So the access token, we set it for default lifetime to gonna last for 1 hour, and also for the refresh token, it will last for 7 days. Okay, so then this is to rotate the refresh tokens, so we're gonna set it true. So after rotation, it will be blacklisted. Okay, so like that. So that is it. So then from there, for the signing key and other things, so the algorithm, it is our HS256, and also the auth header types, so this one will be useful, so remember that one, and also the authorization, like that. So then for the claim field, we need to make sure that we have the user ID and the user ID claim. Okay, so then from there we have the tokens for the access token. So then the token type claim, that is the token type. So then from there we have the course allowed origins. So by default we're gonna allow these ones, even though we're gonna add them to our environment. So now we need to make sure that we add the time delta. Okay, so the time delta will come from the date time, so that we'll be able to use it. So just come here and we import it. So just come below this one, then you say from date time. So from date time here we need to import time delta. So that is it. So the error disappears. So then from there we need to come here to our .env file. So then we need to do what? We need to add those things that we have specified from the database, from the allowed host. So we're gonna start with the allowed host. So here you're gonna say localhost. So the localhost, that is 127 also 0.0.0.1, and also because we'll be using the mobile application, so we need to, and we'll be using a read device, so we need to allow this host. Okay, so 0.0, so it's going to be blocked 104, like that. So then from there we need to have the database. So database. Okay, so for the DB name, so DB name, we said it is what? Fashion e-commerce. So e-commerce course. Okay, like that. Then we have the DB user. So DB user, so is equals to what? Is equals to our fashion user. Okay, so then from there we have the DB password. So DB password, so DB password here is equals to what? We said Gentech. So Gentech at 1234. Okay, so then from there we're gonna have the DB host. So DB host here, it is what? Our local host. So, and also we're gonna have the DB port. So DB port is equals to what? Is equals to 54.2. Okay, so that is it. And also for the course header, so what I'm gonna do, I need to come here for the course. Instead of typing all of it, just need to copy this one. Gonna copy all of this one here, gonna copy it, then I'm gonna come with it here, and then just come below this one, and then we're gonna say what? The calls. Okay, so then here we need to do what? We need to paste this one. So I'm gonna remove the quotes, so like this. So then I'm gonna put equals there. Then also we need to remove this one, and also we need to add our what? This one. Okay, so this one for mobile application. So here gonna say HTTP. So then we need to make sure that we put what? That one. So with the port that we're gonna use, so here we're gonna use 8001. Okay, so even though you can use the one that you want. So that is it. So now after we have done that, now the next thing that we need to do, now we need to go back to our terminal. So in our terminal here, we need to make sure that we add the Django course headers, and also we need to add the DRF spectacular. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, we need to use the pip install. So pip install, then we're gonna say what? We're gonna say Django. So Django course headers. Okay, Django course headers. So that is it. So then from there we need to install what? The DRF spectacular. So pip install. So this one is for browsing our API, so and testing it if you want to use the browser. Okay, so we're gonna say DRF. So DRF spectacular without using the things like Postman, even though in this course we'll be using that one most of the time. So this is just for visualizing. We're gonna use it for that purpose only. So after we do that, now we are ready to start working on our application. So in our application, what we're gonna do, because we want to start with the authentication, so in the authentication we just need to start with the models and working on those parts. Okay, so here we need to clear, and then we need to go back to our code, so that we'll be able to start working on that part. So let's go and meet in the next part. So now what we need to do after we have done that, now we can start working on these models. So in these models, so models are just the fields that you want in the database, so the things that you expect to have in the database. And because we'll be using we want to have a customized user, so for our user management, so we're gonna need to inherit from the base user manager that is still there, so the abstract base user that we have in the Django, that comes with Django. So what we need to do, first of all, let me clear that comment there. So from there, the first thing that you need to do, because we want to extend on those ones, so we're gonna say from Django, so from Django.contrib, so .contrib.auth, so .auth.models. So .models, we need to import the abstract base user. Also we need to have the base user manager, so that we can be able to manage our user, and also the permission mixing for managing the permissions. Okay, so then from there we need to also, we're gonna import time zone, because we're gonna use it for managing the time zone. So then we're gonna say Django.utils. So Django.utils, we need to import time zone. Okay, so time zone like that. Then also we need to import the UID, so because we're gonna use it for our IDs. So then from there, the first thing that you need to do when you're extending you want to create a custom user, you must make sure that first of all the create user in the base manager, you extend it here. Okay, so you're gonna be able to override it and to work on the things that you want. Okay, so that will be able to create your own user. So here gonna say class, so class user, gonna name it user. So user manager, gonna name it user manager here. So gonna say base user manager, that is what we are inheriting from. So gonna say def create, so def create user. So this one will accept self, and also we're gonna have the email. So then we're gonna have the password, so which can be none by default, and also we need to make sure that we use the keyword arguments here for extra fields. Okay, so because we're gonna have other fields. So that is it, so like that. Okay, so then we need first of all to check if you don't have the email. If you don't have the email while creating the user, you need to show an error. Okay, so we're gonna say if not email, here we need to raise our validation, the value error. Okay, so we're gonna say value error. So here you just say what? Email is required. So email is required there. So then if it is there, we just need to say what? Email is equals to self.normalize email. So just need to lowercase the part for domain and other things. Okay, so we pass our email there. So then the next thing that we need to do, we need to say user is equals to self.model. So self.model there. Then we need to pass what? Email, which will be our email. And then for the extra fields, okay, so extra fields like that. So then from there we need to say user dot what, set password. Okay, so the one that gonna set password. Okay, so set password, so we pass our password there, so we're gonna say password. So then the next thing that we need to do, we need to come here below. So now we need to save it. After we have done that, we just say user dot save. So then after saving, we just using what, the database. Okay, gonna say using, so using, we're gonna say self dot what, underscore database. Okay, so that is it. We save it in our database, then we need to return that user. Okay, so that is it. So then from there, for creating the super user, we just need to extend the other one, the user we created, then you extend it, then you add the extra fields. Okay, so we're gonna say def, then we're gonna say create super user. So this one will be called when you be creating a super user. So then we're gonna say self, so self, then you're gonna say email, then also you need to pass the password. So password here can be none, so we're gonna say none, and also you need to have the extra fields. Okay, extra fields like that. So that is it. Then we're gonna say extra fields, this one dot what, now we need to set the default. Okay, so set default. So for a staff, if you are creating the super user, if it is staff, we need to set it to true. Okay, so then from there we need to have extra fields for a super user. So extra set default for a super user, here we need to do what, we need to set it to true. So then from there we need to return that created user. So self dot, now we need to say create user, so the one that we have there, the method. So we pass the email, then we pass the password, so the password, and also the extra what, our extra fields like that. So that is it. So then from there, now we have the user manager. So then the next thing that we need to do, now we need to create the model for what, for our user. Okay, so we're gonna say class user. So class user here just need to extend our abstract base user, and also we need to have the permission mixins. Okay, so then from there we need to have the id for our user. So we're gonna say models, so models dot what, so this one will be the primary key. So we're gonna say models dot uid field, then we're gonna say primary key, so primary key, so you're gonna set it to true. So then from there you need to have the default. So the default here, gonna say uuid, we want to use the uuid, so uid dot uuid4, so we're gonna say uid for this one, and also we're gonna say editable, so we're gonna say editable, gonna set it to false, so this one we cannot edit. Okay, so that is it. So then from there, so this false should be capital letters like that. So then from there we need to have the email, because we want to use email as our username. So we're gonna say models, so models dot what, the email field. Okay, so like that. Then we need to say unique, so we're gonna set it unique, this one should be true, so we don't want to have multiple users with the same email, because this one will be the what, will be the username. So then you're gonna say database index, so this for indexing, so we're gonna say true, so it's easy for lookup and other things. So then from there, font we need to set it to what, we're gonna say models, so this one will be a character field, so because you're gonna have a combination of numbers and also maybe some characters. So here we need to set the maximum length, so maximum length here we don't want any number that exceeds 20, so then blank, this one can be true. Okay, so it can be blank. Okay, also we need to make sure that it can be null. Okay, so just need to set to true, so because user might be required to set it when they are signing in or not. So then we're gonna say is active, so the is active here, so if it is active here, we're gonna set it to models dot what, boolean field. Okay, so boolean field, so it can be either false or, so we need to have the default, so default here we're gonna set it to true, where creating the account or signing in automatically should be is active, if they can be able to do that, unless set otherwise in the by the admin or something else. Okay, so then from there, models.what, so staff by default here, you need to make sure that when user they are creating the accounts, so we need to make sure that they do what, we're gonna set it to false. We don't want everybody to be out to be a super user, so we're gonna set it to false like that. Then from there, we're gonna say date joined, so date joined is equals to models.what, models.date time field. Okay, so date time field, this one, so by default we need to set it to what, to that time zone dot now. Okay, so time zone, that time they created that one. So then from there, after we have done that, now we need to use our user manager so that we'll be able to create that user. So we're going to say objects, so objects here is equals to what, our user manager, the one that we created the app. So then from there, after we have done that, now we need to have the username field. So username field, so username field here is equals to what, gonna set it to email, so that is our username. So then the required fields, so this one we're gonna set it to empty list like that. So then from there, we need to have the meta class where you define different things that you want to do on this database. So we're gonna say class, so database table, this one, so this one defines the things that you want. So the database table, the way it will be called, it will be called what, users, like that. Then from there, we need to have indexing, so this one it's good for lookup, so and other things. So then from there, we need to say models.what, models.index, so make sure it's capital. And then we need to say fields, so the fields here we just need to pass what, the one that we want to index, it is on the email. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to come here below. So outside the meta class, we need to define the string, the one that's gonna convert our objects to string. Okay, so because we don't want to have as an object one in the admin panel, so just need to make sure that we do what, we use the string. Okay, so underscore, then string, underscore, then you pass self for that table. So self, then here you just need to return what, self.email, like that. So that one marks the end of what, our user table. Okay, so then the next table that we need to do, we need to have the table for the profile. Okay, the one that will be responsible for handling the profile for our users. So the one for user, it's just for creating and managing the user. Now for profile, it's the one that they can update after creating the accounts and maybe logging in or registering. So then here we're gonna name it profile. So profile here, so we're gonna say models, so models.model, so that is the one that we're extending here. So here we need to do what, first of all we need to have the gender choices, so the gender choices. Okay, so automatically this one is for gender, so we're gonna say gender, so these are the gender that they are common. The reason it's because that we're gonna use it in our recommendation system and other parts. So because these are fashion, so we can be able to know if they are female or male, like that. So female, so we're gonna say female, we need to female, so female, like that. Then from there we need to have also for male, so we're gonna say male, so male, then we're gonna say male. And also lastly we need to have for the other, so other, there we just need to put what, other, like that. So that is it, then you put semicolon there. The next thing that we need also to define for the choices, these are the size choices. Okay, so here just say size, so size choices. So here you're gonna say what, gonna name it size choices, so size choices is equals to what, so this one we just need to define them here. So the first one we need, it is the extra large, so here the extra small, let me start with the extra small. I'll say extra small. Okay, then from there the next thing that we need to do, it is for the for the small. So small, just do like that. Then we say what? Small. Then from there we need to have what? The medium. So we're gonna say M, so it should be medium. That is it. Then from there we need to have the large, so we're gonna say large. Also we need to do what? We need to have the extra large, so XL. So then we're gonna say extra, so extra large. From there we need to have the extra large, so we're gonna say 2x large. Okay, I'll say 2x large. Okay, so after we do that, the next one, it is the size system that we'll be using. So let us go to that part. So then after that, the next thing that we need to do, so before we continue, is that this profile model, we are following the single responsibility principle, where the user model handles the auth and the profile model gonna handle the personal data. Okay, so the choices here, these are just sets, so they act like an enum, providing a drop down in the UI and also the validation in the database. Okay, so now the next thing that we need to do, now we have done the size choices, now the next one that we need to do, we need to do the size system. So these are the size system that our users can use to get the sizes. So the first one that we need to do, we need to have what? We need to have the US. So this is the US size. So US, then here we just put it as what? US. Okay, so then we need to put comma there. Also we need to have the EU, the European Union, and then gonna say EU there. So then from there also we have the UK standard. So that is it. So the UK. So then you put semicolon there. So now the next thing that we need to do, we need to come here. So we need also to have another choice. So the currency. So we're gonna say the currency. So currency choices. So is equals to, here we're gonna have the different currencies. So it's a list of the sets. So here the first one that I need to have it is gonna start with the Kenya shilling. So we're gonna say Kenya shilling. So then we're gonna have what? Kenya shilling there. Okay, so then from there the next one, it is what? The US dollar. So we're gonna say USD. So then here we need to have the dollar sign and also the USD. Okay, so also we need to have the euro, EUR. Then also we need to have what? The EUR, like that. Then also we're gonna say this is euro, not EUR. So we're gonna say euro. So then from there the next one, it is what? The VND. So VND. So then from there we're gonna say the VND, like that. And also we're gonna say what? We need to have the Ruby. So the RUB, the RUB, like that. Okay, so that is it. So those are the currency that we need to have here. So then the next one that we need to do, we need to have the language choices. So we're gonna say language choices. So is equals to a list of the set. So we need to have the English. So we're gonna say EN. So this one will be English. Okay, so we're gonna say English. Also then we need to have what? We need to have the France. I'm gonna say FR. So the Francias, the Francias, franchise, like that. Then also we need to have the Russian. just put it like that. Then you can say pycck nn, the inverted n. So then from there we need to have the others. You can put all the languages that you want there. So now the next thing that we need to do, we need to have now the fields. So the first one that we need to have it is the user. So the user here we need to say models dot one-to-one. Okay, one-to-one field. So this one gonna ensure that one user has exactly one profile. Okay, so one-to-one. So the model that we want to use here, it is user, the user model. Then we need to say on delete. So here we need to make sure that it deletes even the profile when we delete the user. Okay, so we're gonna say models dot what, cascade. Okay, so cascade like that. Also then we need to have the related name. So the related name here we need to use it as a profile. Gonna name it profile. So this one gonna allow us to access the user dot profile. Okay, so that one will just allow us to get that user profile. So then we need to have the avatar. So the avatar here, so the avatar is equals to our models. So models dot image field, because we want an image there. So we need to say upload to. So just need to have this folder, the one that will be in what, in the media. Okay, so we're gonna create them. Okay, so then from there we need to make sure it can be null, and also we need to make sure that it can be blank also. Okay, gonna set it to true. So then from there the next thing that we need to do it is the name of our user here. So the name here we need to say models. So models dot character field like that. Then we can have the maximum length. So maximum length here we need to pass what, a value of 100. Then also we need to make sure that it can be blank. We're gonna set it to true. Then from there we need to have the default. So the default here we need to have an empty string. Okay, like that. Then from there we need to have the gender. So the gender here is equals to models. So models dot character field. So character field there, then you're gonna say maximum length for the gender. So here we need to make sure it's 10. And then choices, we need to have the choices. So choices here, choices is equals to, we're gonna pass our gender choices. Okay, gender choices there. Also we need to make sure that it can be null, so we're gonna set it to true. And also we need to make sure that it is blank, it can be blank like this. Then we're gonna set it to true. So then from there the next field that we need to have it is for the preferred size. Okay, the size that user prefers. So preferred size is equals to models dot character field. So the character field, then you can have the maximum length. So maximum length here we need to pass a value of 5. And also we need to have the choices. So the choices here, it will be our size choices. Okay, so size choices. Then from there we need to have, it can be null, so we're gonna set it to true. Also we need to do what, we need to make sure that it can be blank, so we're gonna set it to blank. So is equals to what, is equals to true. So then from there, after you have done that, the next thing that we need to make sure that is the size system. So the size system is equals to, so this one we're gonna say models dot character field. So character field, then from there we're gonna say maximum length. So maximum length, so here just pass 2 choices. So the choices here to be what, we're gonna say size, system choices like that. Then the default, we need to have a default here. So default is equals to, gonna set it to US. So we need to make sure that we spell this well, capital, like that. So then from there we need to also have the language. So the language of our user is equals to, we're gonna set to models. So models dot character field. So character field there, then we're gonna say maximum length. So maximum length here, we're gonna pass a value of 2, and also we need to have choices. So the choices here, we're gonna set what? Our language choices, and also we need to have what? The default. So default here, we're gonna set it to English. Okay, so that is it. So that is what we need here. So the size system, then from there we need to have the currency. So currency here is equals to models.character field. It is a character field here. So then we need to do what? We need to say maximum. So maximum length. So is equals to what? Here we need to pass a value of 3. Then from there we need to have the choices. So the choices here to be the currency. So currency choices, and also the default. So the default here. So default here to be what? I'm gonna put it as a Kenya shilling there. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we're gonna have a country. So country is equals to models.character field. So character field there, maximum length. Maximum length here, you can have a value of what? 100. Then we need to have a default. So the default here, you're gonna pass Kenya, like that. So then after that one, now we need to have the next field. The next field will be the style preferences. So style preferences, so is equals to models dot, we're gonna use the JSON field. So JSON field there. So here we need to have a default. So the default here, we want it to be a dictionary. So then from there, we're gonna say blank. So blank here, gonna set it to true. So gonna set it to true. So now the reason why we use the JSON field, because it allows us to store the unstructured data, like maybe a favorite colors, maybe like tags, without creating the maybe different columns. Okay, so that's why we have that one there. And also the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the FCM token. So this one is for Firebase push notifications. Okay, so this one we're gonna use it when we be doing the notifications part. So we need to have this field, this column for storing that one. So models dot what, to be a character field, like that. Then we're gonna say maximum length. So we're gonna have a maximum length of 255. So we're gonna say blank. So blank is equals to what? Is equals to true, and also null, gonna set it to true. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the height. So the height in centimeter. So we're gonna say height. So height centimeter is equals to models. So models dot what? Decimal field. So decimal field, then maximum digits. So maximum digits. So here we need to have a value of 5, and also the decimal places. So the decimal places that we want, just want to have a 2, and also gonna set it to null. It can be null, and also can be blank. Okay, I'll say blank. So blank, we're gonna set it to true. So the reason why we use the decimal field, because when you are doing the measurements, we need to avoid the floating point errors. Okay, so that's why we do it like that. So now what I'm gonna do, I need to copy this one. So this one for the height, I'm gonna use it here. So but this one I want to have a what? Weight. Okay, so weight kg, even though this one are not a must. So then the next thing that we need to do, we need to have created at. So created at. So here gonna say models. So models dot datetime field. So datetime field, then we need to say auto now add. So this is just to be auto now add. It will be updated the moment this one is created, and it will never be changed. Okay, so we're gonna set it to true. So then from there we need to say updated at. So updated at, so remember the spelling and other things. So we're gonna say models dot datetime field. So datetime field here we need to use the auto now. So this one, it's the moment it is changed, we need to update this one by default, like that. So that is it. Now we have those ones. So now the next thing that we need to do here, we need to have the class meta. So class meta, so here what we need to have it is the database table. So the way it will be named, it will be named profiles. Okay, so like that. Then the next thing, it is our string method. So string, it should be underscore underscore. So string underscore underscore there. Then we need to pass self, and also we need to do what? We need to return. What we need to return here, it is string. So then string here we need to have what? We need to have self. Then we need to get from the user, we get the email. Okay, like that. So then we do apostrophe. So then we say profile. Okay, so just need to say certain emails profile. So that is it. Now the next table that we need to have, it is the one for address. So we're gonna say class address. So class address here. So here we pass the models dot model there. So here we need to first of all to have the address types. So these are the choices. So we need to define the set here. So types here is equals to, so here we need to start with what? It's a list. So of set. So here you need to have the home. So home, then you're gonna put it what? Gonna say home, like that. Then the next one that we need to have, it is for the work. If it is the address for work, the one that they are using, so just need to say work, like that. And also we need to have what? The one for other. So put it there, then we put other, like that. So then from there we need to have what? We need to have now the ID. So the ID here we're gonna use the UID. So this is for address. So just need to come here and we say ID is equals to models. So models dot what? Models dot UUID field. So then here we need to set the primary key. So the primary key here, gonna say primary key, we need to set it to true because it will be our primary key. Then you're gonna say the default. So the default that we're gonna use here is the UUID, then UUID4. Okay, so UID4, like that. Then also we need to make sure it's not editable. So editable. So editable, gonna set it to false. Okay, gonna say false. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the user. So the user that will be associated with this address. So we're gonna say models. So models dot what? Models dot foreign key, because it's a foreign key. So the foreign key here, the one that we are using that table, because it will come from a different table. So we're gonna get it from the user, the one that we defined there. So on delete, here we need to cascade. Okay, so we're gonna say models dot cascade. So when the user is deleted, also the address is removed. So then the related name. So the related name is equals to what? So remember this one, we said when we want to access this one, we just say user dot addresses. Okay, so then we're gonna get the address for that user. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to, so the reason why we use a foreign key, the foreign key represents a one-to-many relationship. So one user can have many addresses. Okay, so that's why we're using the foreign key for that purpose. So then after we have done that, we can say address. So the address type here is equals to our models. So models dot character field. So character field here, so we need to have the maximum length. So maximum length so maximum length of 10, and also we're gonna have what, choices. So choices here, gonna use our what, our address types, okay, so the ones that we created. So then from there, after the address types, you need to have the default. So the default here, gonna just have it as a home address type, okay. So then from there, we need to have the full name. So the full name here, gonna say modest.character field. So modest.character field, then you're gonna say, gonna have what, we need to make sure that you have the maximum length. So maximum length, so maximum length here, gonna set it to 100 characters. Then from there, the next one that we need to do it is the phone number. So we're gonna say phone is equals to models, so models.character field. So then we need to have the maximum length. So maximum length here, so maximum length here, we need to have what, we need to make sure it's 20, and also we need to have the next one, which is the street address. So street address is equals to models, so models.character field. So character field there, then you need to have maximum length. So maximum length is equals to what, is equals to 255, like that. Then from there, the next thing that we need to have it is what, after you have the street address, you need to have the city. So the city here, we're gonna say models.character field. So then you need to have the maximum length. So maximum length, so maximum length here, you're gonna set it to 100 characters. Then also we need to have the district. So district here, you can set them to null if you want them to be null, so it's not a must they be in the table. So then district here, gonna say it's a character field. So we are gonna have the maximum length. So maximum length, so this one we're gonna set it to 100, and also this one can set it to blank, which you can say it can be true. Also from there, the next one that we need to have it is what, our postal code. So postal code, so postal code here, gonna say models, so models.character field. So character field there, then we're gonna say maximum length. So maximum length, so maximum length here, gonna have what, 100, and also the default, not the default, we need to have blank. So this one can again set it to true. And also from there, the next one that we need to have it is what, the country, okay. So models.character field, then from there, gonna say maximum length. So maximum length here, we need to pass a value of 100, and also we need to have a default, the one, if it is not passed, you just just pick the current country, okay, so which you can pass Kenya, like that. So then from there, then we need to check if it is default. So it's default, so it's the default address or not. So models.what, boolean field, so boolean, so either true or false. So by default, we're gonna create what, we need to make sure that by default it is false, okay. So then from there, so this one is to ensure that only one default exists, okay. So we're gonna do like that. Then we need also to have created that and also updated that. So which I'm gonna just copy this one. I need to copy all of this one from here. So just come here and you copy it. So just come here and then you paste it where, here. So what we're gonna do, so the same case, the add now and others. So for the database table here, we just need to change it to addresses, like that. Then from there, we need to have our variables. So this one is just for Django's address pluralization error, okay. So to avoid that one, we need to say the variables name plural, okay. So because in the Django admin, it will just add the s at the end of the name. So instead of doing that, we just need to define ours. So the one that makes sense, that is grammatically correct. Okay, so then from there we need to have indexing. So we're gonna come here and say indexes. So indexes, then from there we just need to do what? So a list where you can define different indexes, the ones that you want. So models.index. So models.index, this one, like that. Then we need to pass the fields, so the fields that we want them to be indexed. So this one, the first one, it's the user, and also it's default. Okay, so just take the fields that you want, so like that. So that is it. So then from there, the next thing that you need to do, put comma there. So then the next thing that you need to do, I want to have an override for the save. Okay, so just come here below outside the meta class. So we're gonna define, we need to override it. So we're gonna say save. So here pass self, and also the arguments, and also the keyword arguments. Okay, so keyword args, so quags, like that. So this one gonna override the save method. So here we need to say if self dot is default, if it is default, is default, self dot is default, so it's default there. So that one. So now we need to override it. So we're gonna say address. So we're gonna say address dot objects. So we need to access the objects. So objects dot what? We need first of all to filter them. Then to filter, then we need to get the user, the user that is being passed. So user, then we need to set the is default to true. Okay, is default is equals to what? Gonna set it to true. Then we need to update it. Okay, so just say update. So to update, we're gonna make sure that what is default is default, set it to false, like that, if it was true. So then from there we need just to now to save. Okay, so that's why we just need to call the super, because we're overriding it. So super dot what? Dot save. So dot save, then you pass the arguments, like that. Then you're gonna pass what? The keyword arguments, like that. Okay, so if this address is set to default, we unset all other addresses for this user to ensure the data integrity. That's why we just need to do that here. So that's why we just overridden that one. So then from there, so here instead of using the email, so here you just need to do what? To call the full name. Okay, just use the full name, like that. Then instead of that one, we need to have an hyphen there. Then we need to pass what? Gonna get the city, self dot city. So then we remove the profile here. So this one marks the end of what? Let me save this one so that to arrange it like that. So this one marks the end of our models. So that is the accounts model. So now we need to start working on the serializers, the ones gonna convert our models to our JSON fields. Okay, so let us go in that section and then we work on it. Now in this part, now we are going to work on the serializers. So let us create, what we do, just need to create a serializer file here. So serializers, so serializers.py. okay, so this one gonna translate our user model to JSON. So what we're gonna do here, first of all, we need to have the imports. We're gonna say from REST framework. So this is where now we use our Django REST framework. So we need to import serializers. Okay, so serializers, like that. Then from there we need to import our models, the ones that we are going to convert to JSON. So we need to import our user model, also the profile. So this is for helping us to be able to address the data that we're gonna send to the front end. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do, first of all, we're gonna have the serializer for our user model. So we're gonna say class. So class, we're gonna name it user serializer. So it's good to use a name just the model name, then you add the serializer. It makes it easier for you to understand what you are doing. So serializers.model, so model serializer. So after you have done that, now we need to use the class meta, because here we are not doing anything. So as you can see, we have the verbose name, we have the different things that you can do here. So but what we're gonna do, I won't use that one, so I'm gonna say class meta here. So now the model that we're gonna use here, gonna say model is equals to user, our model. So then from there we need to have the fields that we want to expose to the API. So we're gonna say fields. So the fields that we're gonna expose here, the ones that will be sent in the API. So we're gonna say ID. Also we're gonna have the email. So the email, and also we're gonna have the phone. So there's the phone, and also the date joined. Okay, so date joined, that is it. So then from there we're gonna have the read only fields. So this one are the fields that the front end can see but cannot change. Okay, so we're gonna say read only. So read only fields, so is equals to, so here you're gonna pass the one that you have, it is the ID, also the date joined. So the date joined there. So those are just to be seen but not to be changed in the front end. So then the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the one that will be the serializer that will be responsible for the registration. So we're gonna say class. So here we need to say user. So user registration. So registration. So registration serializer, like that. Then you need to say serializers model serializer. So serializer, like that. So here we need to have some few fields. So these are just a plain serializer. So this one is used for data input. Okay, it doesn't map directly to a model until we process it in the service. So that's why we use it here. So we're gonna say serializers dot email field, like that. So then when it is processed, now it can be used to map it directly to our model. Okay, so then from there we need to have the password. So we're gonna say serializers dot character field. So here we need to say write only. So write only. So this one gonna set it to true. So the write only. So this one we don't need to. We're gonna never send the password to back in response. That's why you need to have it as a write only. Okay, so we're gonna set it to true. Then we need to have the minimum length. So the minimum length. So the minimum length here to be 8. Then from there, the next thing that we need to have it is the font. So the font here gonna say serializers dot character field. So then from there, you're gonna make sure it's required. So required here, we need to make sure that it is false, and also we're gonna say allow blank. So allow blank. So it's not a must when you're signing in to provide these ones. So just set it to true. So then the next thing that we're gonna do now, we need to validate the email. So this one we're gonna have a custom validation to check if the email is already taken before trying to save. Okay, so for us to be able to do that, we just need to have a method here. So I'm gonna say validate. So validate email. So then you're gonna pass self and also the value that will be passed here. So most of the time when you're doing the serializers, you can do some validation to the fields that you are that you get from the front end. So you can do it them here. Okay, so the first thing that we're gonna say, we need to say if user.objects, we need to get from the table. So we need to filter. So when we filter here, we need to check the email. So email, we need to make sure that we check that value. So then we need to make sure that we need to check if it exists. So if it exists, we need to raise the validation error. Okay, so we're gonna say raise serializers. So serializers.validation error. So here we're gonna say user with this email already. So already exists. Okay, then from there just need to return value, so that is it. So then the next one, it is for the simple schema to validate the login inputs. So just need to have that class. So we're going to say class, then we're going to name it user login. So login serializer, so serializer like that. Then we're going to say serializers dot what, serializer. So from there we need to just have the email and password. So we're gonna just copy this one. So we're gonna copy this one because that is the only thing that we're gonna require while signing in. So the email field, then the minimum length, we don't need it because that is it, because the user already has what, has the data in the backend. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the one for our profile. So we're gonna say class. So class here, gonna say class profile. So profile serializer. So profile serializer like that. Then we need to make sure that we use the serializers.model serializer because we don't have the custom. So what we need to do here, so we're gonna have we need to have as we use the foreign key for the user serializer to be able to add more. So we're gonna have the user, we're gonna use this user serializer. Okay, so what I need to do here, first of all, I need to define that user. So here user, gonna say user serializer. Okay, so this one, then we need to make sure that it is read only. So read only, gonna set it to true. So here we're gonna have the nested serialization where we include the user serializer inside the profile. So here we set it to read only. So this one makes the profile data with the information that we need from the user, the one that we're gonna provide the user and the one that is there for the user. So then we need to have the meta class. So here we need to have the model. So the model here, it is our profile. From there we need to have the feeds. So the feeds here, is equals to, first of all, we need to have the user, we need to have the avatar. So remember, these things are there in the tables that we created. Okay, if you're not familiar with that, so you can realize, for example, here we have the user, we have the avatar, the name, the gender. That is what we need to expose to the API. So here after avatar, here we need to have the gender. So gender, then from there you can have the preferred size. So preferred size. Also you're gonna have the style. I'm gonna say style preferences. So make sure that you spell them well as they are spelled in the models. So then from there you're gonna have the weight. So weight there in kg. From there you're gonna have the size system. Also you're gonna have the currency and the language. Also you need to have the country. I say country created at, and also you need to have the updated at, and also the name. So that is it. And then also you need to define some few read only. So we're gonna say read only feeds. So read only feeds here. So the ones that we're gonna expose here, gonna have the created at, and also we're gonna have the updated at. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to have for the address. So the address here, gonna say class, gonna say address serializer. So address serializer. So this one will be responsible for address. So model serializer, because we're just using the model, we are doing nothing more. So gonna say class, gonna say meta. So then we need to have what, the model, the one that we're gonna use, it is our address. Okay, so then we need to have the fields that we want to expose. So here we need to have the ID, we need to have the address type. So address type, also we're gonna have the full name. So full name, also we're gonna have the phone, also we're gonna have the street address, also we're gonna have the city, also the district, so district, and also gonna have the postal code like that. Then we need to have the country, and also we need to have its default. So it's default created at, so created at, and also we need to have the updated at. So we're gonna say updated at. So then for the read-only feeds, also you need to have these ones. So just need to copy this one, and then you need to come here below. Then I'm gonna paste that one. Also we need to include ID here. Don't want it to be so like that, and also you need to close that one there. So as you see there, so we have worked on the serializers. So let me save this one to arrange it like that. So make sure that your serializers look like that. Okay, so that is it. Now we need to, for the next session, we need to start working on what? On our views. So let us come here in our views, then we're gonna start working on it. So now for the views, in this part we're gonna handle the views. So the different views that we're gonna use to access these parts. So what we're gonna use here, we are going to use the service view architecture, where we have the service, where the service gonna interact with the database, and also doing the most things, okay, and the complex things. So then from there, our views just handle the request and the responses. So that is what we're gonna do, and a lot of things we're gonna do here. So before we continue, what I need to do, we need to have the imports first. So the first one, we need to have the REST framework. So REST framework, we need to import the status. So these are just the status that you can get when using the HTTP. Okay, so we're gonna say from REST framework dot decorators. So decorators, we need to import our API view. Also we need to have the permission classes. So then we're gonna see how we're gonna use them. So but for API view, it is just the view for API, and then the permission is just handling the permissions. So then we need to have the REST framework. So REST framework dot permission. So dot permissions, we need to import allow any. So we can allow any that endpoint. Then we need to have the one that we need to make sure that they are authenticated. So it's authenticated there. So also we need to have the REST framework for the response. So the one that gonna handle the responses, we're gonna give to the front end, to the client part. Okay, so we need to import the response. So response there. Also we need to import from REST framework SimpleJWT. So we need from the tokens. So we need to import what? We need to import the refresh token. Okay, also from there we need to say from Django. So Django.contrib. So Django.contrib.auth, we need to import authenticate. Also we need to make sure that we import our, so also we need to import one of the models. So we're gonna say import. So from our models, so we need to import profile, because we're gonna use it later. So also we need to say from .models here, not .models, .serializers. So because we'll be using serializers to serialize our data to the front end. So here we need to import the user registration serializer. Also we're gonna say user login serializer. Also we're gonna have the profile serializer. Also we need to have the address serializer, and also we're gonna have our user serializer. So that is it. So let me save that one. So then we need to start working on the first view. so the view that will be responsible for registering our users. So we need to make sure that we use these decorators so to make our work easier. So our API view, so this one we need to make sure the method that is used here, it is a post method, so we just need to make sure that it is a post method. So we can access that one through post only. So then we need from there gonna say permission classes. So permission classes here anyone can access, so we're gonna say allow any, so they don't need to be authenticated. So then we need to give it a name, so we're gonna say register. So register here, then we're gonna pass the request. So this is the request you're gonna get from the front end. So this one we're gonna register a new user. So to register a new user, we need first of all to get the data from the request. Okay, then we need to serialize it before we start working on it. So we're gonna say serializer, we need to give that name to that one. So serializer here, gonna say user registration serializer, that one. So then we need to get the data. So the data that we're gonna pass to this serializer, it is we're gonna get it from the request. So the request here will come with the data. So after we do that, now we need to check if it checks for if the email is valid. So if it is valid, so we're gonna say if it's valid. So if our serializer is valid, so if it is valid here, so we just need to choose now the service to add it to the database and to check some few things. Okay, so we need to come to our accounts here. We need to create a new file. So this file we're gonna name it services, so services.py. so this is where we're gonna put that logic. So we're gonna say from, so first of all we need to have the import. So from Django database, so we need to import our transaction. So transaction, also we need to say from Django, so django.co.exceptions, we need to import validation error. And also we need to make sure that we import our models, because this is where we're gonna do a lot of things interacting with the database. So we need to make sure that we pass the user model, the profile model, and also the address model. So that is it. So then we need to have a class. So this is where we're gonna define the static methods. So these methods you can access them outside this class, but you don't need to call them to create the object so that you can be able to access the method. So that's why we're gonna use the static. So we're gonna say class. So class, then we're gonna say account. We're gonna name it account service. So you can name it what you want. So this is where the business logic for the user accounts. So here you're gonna say at static. So static method. So static method like that. So then we need to mark this one also using this decorator. So transaction.atomic. Okay, so then from there gonna name it def. So def, then we're gonna say create user. So this one is responsible for creating the user. So we need to make sure that we pass the email and also the password and phone, which can be none. Okay, so it is not a must to be in the request. So the reason why we are using the transaction.atomic, this one ensures that if creating the user succeeds but creating a profile fails, the whole operation is rolled back. Okay, so this one prevents the orphan users with no profiles. Okay, so this one method, we need to create the new user with profile. And then, so the first thing when we are doing this one, we need to check if the user already exists. Okay, so we're gonna say if user, so we are just using we need to check from that database. So if user.filter objects.filter, we need to pass the email. So the email that we get here, so we need to check if it exists. Okay, so we're gonna say exist. So if it exists, you just need to raise the validation error. Okay, so we're gonna say user, so user with this email already exists. Okay, even though it can't reach here because the serializers are checking. Okay, so it's just to make sure that you are safe. So now we need to create the user. So to create the user, first of all, we need to have a variable that we're gonna use to store the user first. So we're gonna say user.objects. So then dot objects, then we need to have the create. There's a method that we're gonna say create user. So create user here, then we need to do what? We need to, this one method comes from the models. So when you come to our models here, as you remember, we had this method. Okay, so this method for creating user is the one that we are calling here. So here in our services, so that it will be used to create that user. So here we need to pass the email. So the email here is equals to email. Also we're gonna have the password. So the password here, gonna pass our password like that. And also for the phone, we're gonna pass it as a what? As the phone. Okay, so that is it. Now we need to, after that one, we need to create the profile, even though it will be auto created via the signal. Okay, so but we need to ensure it exists. So what we need to do here, just need to come here below. So we're gonna say profile. So the profile table, so this one dot objects, so dot objects dot get or create. Okay, so it is to get if it is there, but if it is not there, just need to create it. Okay, so just pass the user there. So then from there you just need to return that user. So that is what we do when you are creating the what? The new user. So now we need to use it in our what? In our view here. So just need to say user. So now we need to get the user. So the user that we're gonna get, gonna say account service. So what I'm gonna do, I need to import it here. So we're gonna say from dot services. So dot services, we need to import our what? Our account service. So now here we need to use it here. So we're gonna say account service dot what? Dot create user. That is the only method that we have there. So now we need to, the email that we're gonna pass here, so that it will be processed by that method. So we need to make sure that we get it from the one that is validated. So we're gonna say serializer. So serializer dot what? Validated data. So the validated data like that. So then we need to get what? The email. Okay, so remember we have those feeds there in our serializer. So also for the password, so password we do the same. So we're gonna say serializer. So serializer dot what? Validated data. So the validated data, so validated data there, then we need to get what? The password. Okay, so we're gonna say password. From there, then the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the phone. So the phone here, gonna get it from the serializer also. So serializer dot what? Validated data. So validated data, then we need to get the phone if it is there. I'm gonna say like that. So make sure that you have it like that. So let me first of all save that one. So make sure that it appears like that. Then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to get the refresh token for the user. So to get the refresh token, so we need to get it from that. So this one we just provide the token. So after you create the user, we need to make sure that you have what? The refresh token. Okay, so here we're gonna say refresh, gonna pass it, we're gonna use our refresh token. Okay, so refresh token, then we're gonna say for user, then we pass the user that is created there. So then from there we need to have the response that we need to give to our user. So just say return. So return here, gonna say response. So the response here, so response here, we need to format it here. So we're gonna do like this. So the first thing that we need to have, it is the user. So remember user, it is our user serializer. So we need to serialize it. So we're gonna use our user serializer there, then we pass our user, then we need to make sure that we get the data. Also from there, also we need to make sure that we provide the tokens. Okay, so this one will be able to see them when we'll be testing in the Postman, so well, so that we can be able to understand. So the refresh token, so we need to make sure that we put it in out in gonna say refresh. So this one will just, this is the refresh token. So this one will just be the string of the refresh, the one that we have it there. So like that. Then from there we need to have the access token. So we're gonna say access token. So the access token here, so just say string. So string, then you need to get it from the refresh. Okay, so from the refresh there we have the access, we have the access token. So that is it. So also we need to have the status. So still in the response, you can see we have what? We have the data, we have the things there, and also you can also have what? The status. Okay, so this one, so then now we have the data which ends here. Now we need to do what? We need to have a comma, then we need to have the status. Okay, so the status, you're gonna say status dot what? Status dot http 201 that is for created, like that. So that is it. So then from there, let me save that one. So but if this serializer it's not valid, so the response, we're gonna say what? We need to return the response. So the response here, to be serializer, so we need to get from the serializer, we need to get the errors. So the errors there, like that. And also we're gonna say status. So the status here to be our status dot what? http 400 bad request. Okay, so that is it. So let me save that one. So that marks the end of our what? Of our first API endpoint. So our API view. So now we need to work on the next view. So in this part for the view for login, so we're gonna say at API view. Then this one obviously will be a post method. So these are the HTTP methods. So that's why we need to use them here. So then we need to have the permission classes. So this one, anyone can access. So we're gonna say allow any. So allow any. Then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to define the endpoint. So we're gonna name it login. So then we pass the request. So this one, we're gonna log in the user and return the JWT tokens. So this one, you can decide to do it in the service, but you can do it in a simple way, the way I'm gonna show you here. So we're gonna say serializer. So serializer, we need to pass the data to our serializer. So we're gonna say user login serializer. So then we need to get the data from the request. Okay, so request dot data. Also now we need to check if the data it is valid. So if it is valid, so serializer dot is valid. So it's valid here. So here we need to authenticate, because that is the only thing that we need to do here. We just use the authenticate. So remember, we imported this method. So the one that is, so this one, if the given credentials are valid, gonna return the user object. So the one that we imported here from the Django contribute author. Okay, so in this one we need to pass some few fields. So first of all, we're gonna have the email. So the email is the thing that we need to make sure that when you are logging in, you provide. Okay, so validated data. So validated data there, then we need to get what? From that validated data, we're gonna get the email. And also from there, we need to have the password. Need to make sure that it is not in quotes. So password here is equals to, what? Our serializer. So serializer dot validated data. So validated data, then you need to do what? To get the password. Okay, I'm gonna say password. So that is it. Then from there, after we do that, now we have the user. So we authenticate. If it succeeds, just need to come here. First of all, we need to check if we have the user. If it is, we have the user here. If it is not an error, just need to give them the refresh token. Okay, so the token, so refresh token dot what? For that user, the one that was authenticated, just pass it there. So then from there, just need to have the response that we're gonna give to the client. So we're gonna say return. So what we need to do here, we need to return. So return here the response. So the response here to be here, we need to make sure that we have it like this. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to have the user. So the user, as usual, it is our user serializer. So which I can just copy this one. So let me copy all of this one instead of typing all of it again. So just need to copy this, and then I'm gonna replace this one here. So like that, we need to make sure that we give it like that. Okay, so but if that one fails, so let me first of all save that one. So then when you come here, so outside this, if it is not the user, so we know it is an error, so we need to know that it was not authenticated. Okay, so we just need to return the response. So this one to be an error, so we need to make sure that the error that we are giving here, so it's a dictionary, so we need to make sure that we're gonna say error. So the error, so this one we're gonna say invalid what? Invalid credentials. Okay, invalid credentials. So invalid credentials, and also from there we need to have the status. So the status here, gonna say status dot what? Status dot http 400 unauthorized. Okay, and 401 like that. So then, but if our serializer it's not, if it is not valid, so because you can see here we started by checking that one, so just need to return the bad request. Okay, so just need to copy this one. So just copy this one, and then you come just outside this one, make sure that you outside the if. So then you need to do what? We need to paste it there. So that is it. So then from there, that is the endpoint for logging in. So then the next one there that we need to do the one that will be responsible for either getting the profile or updating the profile. Okay, so we're gonna say at API view. So this one we need to have different methods. So based on the method we do a certain thing. Okay, if it is a get method, so if it is a get method that is getting, and if it is a patch, so this is updating. Okay, so then from there we need to come here, then we need to have the permission classes. So this one we need to make sure that whoever gets this data, they are authenticated. So we need to say is authenticated like that. So that is the permission classes that we're gonna use there. Then we need to say def profile. So def profile here, then we need to pass the request. So the request here, first of all, we need to have the profile object. So we're gonna say profile. So profile object. So profile object here is equals to profile. We need to get it from the profile. So profile dot objects. So the reason why I'm not doing this one in the service is because it's just simple thing that we are doing here. So we're gonna say user, gonna get it from the request dot user. Okay, so the user will be provided there. That is the profile object. So the first thing that we need to do, if you have the profile object, we need first of all to check the method that was used. Okay, so we're gonna say if request, if in the request the method, okay, so the method here, if it is equals to get, so this one is just getting the profile. There's nothing big that happens here. We just need to serialize the data. So the serializer is equals to our profile. So we need to just serialize that data so that we'll be able to provide to the user profile object there. Then we need to have the context. So the context will help us to have the complete URL for our maybe our images, so the avatar, so that instead of having the URL that does not have the host, so this one will help us to have that one. So we're gonna pass the request. So we're gonna say request is equals to what? Our request, so that we'll be able to know the source, so that we'll be able to provide that one. So then we need to return, so we need to return the response. So in the response here, we need to get the data from the serializer. Okay, so serializer dot data. So that is it. So then if it is the patch, we're gonna say else if the request dot method, if the request dot method here, so if the request dot method, so dot method here is equals to patch, I'm gonna say patch. So if it is patch here, so this one is just updating, so we're gonna say serializer. So first of all, we need to serialize that data. I'm gonna say serializer dot profile. So profile serializer like that. Then we need to provide the profile object, that one. Then also we need to get the data that is sent from the request. So we're gonna say request dot data. So then we're gonna set the partial So this one is to say that it is just a partial update, so we're gonna set it to true. It's not a complete update, so we're gonna say context. So context here, just need to make sure that we provide what the request, so because we need to have it even after we update them, so we just need to do what, to provide the complete URLs. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to check if the serializer, so if the serializer that we get here is valid. If it is valid, so here you just need to save it. Okay, so we're gonna say serializer, so serializer dot what, dot save. Okay, so like that, and also from there we need to return response. So we need to return the response here after you have saved. Now we need to give the updated one. Okay, so serializer dot data. Then if serializer it's not valid, so we just need to return the serializer, this one, bad request. Okay, so just need to copy this one. Gonna copy this one and I'm gonna use it here. So that is it. So let me save that one. So that is the endpoint for updating and getting the profile. So then the next one that we need to do, we need to have the one that gonna update the FCM token for push notifications. Okay, so just need to come here and you say at API view, so this one will be a post method, so just say post. So the post method here, so we need to have the permission classes, so we need to make sure that they are authenticated. So we're gonna say is authenticated, not that one, we're gonna say is authenticated. It's authenticated there. Then we need to do what, to define that endpoint. So we're gonna say update FCM, so FCM token. So this one will be useful and will be doing the part for notification. So then we're gonna say FCM token, so FCM token is equals to what, from the request we're gonna get the data. We need to get, just need to get the FCM. Okay, so we need to make sure that we send it like this. We're gonna say FCM token there. So after you have done that, we need to check if you have the FCM token. If it is not there, we just need to give an error. So we're gonna say if not, so if not FCM token, if you don't have the FCM token, just need to return a response. So the response here, gonna say return, so return response. So the response we need to send, so this one we're gonna say what, it's a dictionary. So here gonna say error, so the error, then we need to do what, gonna say FCM, so FCM token, so FCM token is what, is required, like that. So then from there we need to have the status. So the status here, gonna say status dot http 400 bad request. So that is it. So then from there, so let me save that one first. So then from there we need to use the service to be able to update the FCM token. Okay, so just need to come in our service here. So here in our service, you need to create that method that will be responsible for updating the FCM token. So we're gonna say static method. Then we need to say def. Then we're gonna say update FCM token. Okay, FCM token. So FCM token. Then we're gonna pass the user, and also we need to make sure that we have what, the FCM token. So then from there we need to have the profile first of all. So the profile here, we're gonna get it from the user. So remember user, we had what, we had the related name where we had the profile. Okay, so remember in our profile, so where is it, so in our profile we had this one, so which was related to this user. Okay, so that's why we use it there. So we're gonna say user dot profile there. Then we need to say profile. So in the profile we had the FCM token. So the FCM token, so the FCM token here, we need to assign the new FCM token. So then from there we need to save it. So that we need to say profile dot save. So the update fields, so the update fields here, the ones that are updated is equals to what, is equals to our FCM token. That is it. Then we need to return the profile. So that is just the simple method to do that, which you could have done it in the what. Let me save that one first. So you could have done it here, but we don't want to have a lot of things here in our views. Okay, so account service, then we need to have the update FCM token. So then we need to make sure that we get the user from the request, and also we need to have the FCM token, the one that we get from there, from the request also. So then we need to return a response. So the response here, we need to do what? We need to say message. So we're gonna say message. So message here, we need to do what? So remember this one, we're gonna say FCM token updated what? Updated successfully. So that is it. So then from there, after we have done that, now we can be able to go to the next view. So the next views that we're gonna handle in the next part, we need to handle the ones that gonna deal with the address, from addresses, from the details for the address and other things. So now in this part for the address, so we just need to say at API view. So the one that we're gonna start with, it is the one that will be responsible for getting and also for creating. Okay, so when you want to create the addresses, so this one we're gonna say get. So this one is just for getting and also for if you are creating for the first time. Okay, so then from there, you're gonna have the at permission classes. So at permission classes here, we need to make sure it's what? It's authenticated. Okay, it's authenticated like that. So now we need to give it a name. So we're gonna say addresses. So these addresses, then we need to have the request. So then from there, the next thing that we're gonna do, so this one, it will be responsible for listing and also for creating the addresses. So we're gonna say if request, if the request dot method, so if the request dot method here is equals to what? Is equals to get. Okay, if it is get method, so we need to get the addresses. So what we're gonna do, we need to create the method that will be responsible for getting the addresses in our what? In our services. So here we need to come just below this one. So below that one, we're gonna say at static method. So at static method, so then from there, we're gonna say def. So then we're gonna say get user addresses. So this would just be a simple method, but this one would be useful. So what we need to pass here is what? Our user, so that we'll be able to get the all addresses for the user. Okay, just need to return. Then we're gonna say address. So address dot what? Dot objects dot filter. We need to filter. Then we need to make sure that we check the addresses that are associated to that user. Then we need to order them. So we need to order by decreasing order, or the descending order of what? Is default. Okay, it's default like that, and also descending order of what? Of when it was created. Okay, so created at. So that is it. So that is the method for what? For getting the address. So it's just simple method like that. Then we need to use it here. We're gonna say addresses. So our addresses here is equals to what? Is equals to our account service dot what? Get user addresses like that. Then we need to pass the user, so the one that we're gonna get from the request. Also from there, we need to return the response. So the response here, we're gonna say we need to pass them to our address serializer like that. Then we need to pass the addresses that we get, and then we're gonna set many to true, is equals to true. And also from there, we need to make sure that we get what? The data from that serializer like that. We need to make sure that it is there. So then else if it is use the request.method. So request.method here, if the request.method here it is equals to post method. So if it is equals to post method, so just need to come here. We need to first of all to serialize the data. So we're gonna say serializer, because this creating, so we need to make sure that we pass them to what, so address serializer. So then we're gonna say data, gonna get it from the request.data. Also from there we need to make sure that the serializer is valid before we send it to our back to our database. So we're gonna say if serializer dot what, if serializer is valid, if it is valid here, we need to use the service so that we'll be able to create the address. Okay, so just need to come here and then we need to create that method. So let me come just below this one, then we're gonna say at static method. So at static method, then we need to say def. So def, then you're gonna say create address. So then you're gonna pass the user, and also we need to have some keyword arguments, so that is the data that will be passed here. Okay, so to create a new address, we just say address. So address is equals to what, is equals to, gonna say address dot what, dot objects dot create. So dot create here, then we need to pass the user, it's the user that we get, and also the keyword arguments, that is our data. So because it will be what, different types, so return here will be what, address. That is what we need to return there. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do after we have done that, it is now to use it in our what, in our view here. So in our view here, so if it is valid, now we need to pass it to what, to our service. So we need to say account service. We're gonna create that variable so that we'll be able to track it. So we're gonna say create address. So when you create address, you need to say request dot what, so request dot user. Then also we need to serialize the data. So we're gonna say serializer. So serializer dot what, validated. So the validated data. So from the validated data, so that is the data that we want to pass. Okay, so that's why we make sure that we pass it there to the service. Okay, so that is the data, we're gonna make sure that we send it there. Then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to return a response. Okay, so we need to say return a response. So return a response. So the response here, we need to serialize it before we send it to the client. So address serializer, then we need to make sure that we pass our address there, the one that we create. Then from there we need to do what, we need to make sure that it is data we are passing. Then we need to have the status code. So the status here, gonna say status dot what, so here gonna pass the 201 created, because we are creating. Then if it is not a valid serializer, so we need to return a response. Okay, so just need to say return. So the response that we need to return here is what, the serializer dot what, errors. Okay, so dot errors, and also we're gonna have the status. So the status here to be our status dot what, status dot http 400 bad request. Okay, so that is it. So that is the endpoint for getting what, the addresses and also creating the address. So now the next one that we need to have, it is the endpoint that will be responsible for getting the address detail. Okay, and also you can use it to delete, you can use it to do a partial update, and also for the full update. Okay, so we're gonna say at API view, so for us to be able to get or to update or to delete an address, we're gonna use the different methods. Okay, so here we need to use the get method. So and also we're gonna say get. So first we need get, also we need to have put for full update, and also for patch for partial update, and also for delete. So the one that we're gonna use to delete, maybe that one. that address. So then we need to make sure that whoever is doing this one, they are authenticated. Okay, so just say is authenticated there. So now we need to define that one. So we're gonna say address details. So address details, so then we need to pass the request and also the address ID, because you cannot get something if it is not, we don't have the address ID. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to try, because this one can end up with an error. So the first thing that we need to do, we need to have the one that we're gonna get. So for get, we need to make sure that we do what, we come here, gonna use this one. I don't need to type it, so just need to come here, Control C. So then from there we need to come and paste it there. So then also we need to squeeze this one. So let me come here, I need to squeeze it there. So the addresses, so the address, so this one we're just getting the address. So the address, you're gonna get the address. So we need to create a method that will be responsible for getting the address. Okay, so that we'll be able to do it. So the address, get address, gonna name it get address in our service, so that it will be responsible for getting what, the address. Okay, so just come here. So in the service, then we need to do what, we need to come below this one, below the create. So then we're gonna say static, so static method, then here gonna say what, def, gonna say get address. So get address here, then we need to pass the user and also the address ID. Okay, so then from there we're gonna, so this one we get the specific address, so we just need to return address. So address dot objects dot get. So dot get, then we need to make sure that the ID, we pass the address, the one that we're gonna get from the front end, and also the user is the user that is being passed here. So that is the method for getting what, the address. So now we need to use it there. So as you can see, we have what, we have the get address. So let us see whether we spelled it well. So get address, so let me copy this one to make sure that I'm using the correct one here. So that is it. So then from there, the thing that we need to do, we need to pass the user, and also we need to pass what, the address ID. So the address ID like that. So then from there we need to return the address. So this one should be address, not the addresses. And then we don't need to do what, we don't need to have it with many, because it's just one. So like that. So make sure that we do like that, then you get the data. So that is it. Okay, so then the next thing that we need to do, that one was responsible for getting what, for getting the address, so details. So we're gonna say, then if the request, so the request dot method, so if the method, it is either in, we can check if it is either input, if it is input or patch. So this one we just need to differentiate them by partial update and also the full update. So we're gonna say serializer. So serializer here is equals to our address serializer. So the data that we get, we need first of all to pass it to our serializer to serialize it before we use it. So we need to pass the request.data, and also for partial, so partial here gonna say check whether it is what, if it is in, so partial here you need to check if it is patch. So we're gonna say, gonna put it, gonna say request, if the request dot method, if the request dot method is equals to patch. Okay, if that is the case, so now we need to do what, we need to come here. So then we need to check if it is valid or not. So now we need to check if it is valid. So we're gonna say if our serializer, if the serializer here dot is valid, if it is valid here, so we just need to do it now, to pass it to our service to be able to handle it, to update the address. Okay, so that is what we need to do. Just need to come to our services here. So here in our services, we just need to come below this one, and then we do what? Then we have the static method. So we're gonna say static method. Also we need to say def, then we need to do what? Gonna say def, then we need to say, so this one, before we do that one, first of all we need to make sure that we use the transaction atomic, so that to make sure that it is complete. Okay, so then we're gonna say def, so then we're gonna say update address. So update address here, then we're gonna pass the user, and then we need to make sure that we have the address ID, the one that is being updated. Then we're gonna say the keyword arguments there. Then we need to do what? We need to update our address. So to update an address, so we're gonna say address. So we need to have that variable. So we're gonna say address. So first of all, we need to get it. So we're gonna say objects. So dot objects. So dot get. So then what we need to get is to make sure that the one that matches our address ID, the address ID there, and also we need to make sure that the user is the user there. So then we need to make sure that for every field that is passed here, we need to set it. Okay, so we need to check that one field, and then we need to set that field. So we're gonna say for field, any field that is updated or the new one, so you need to make sure that from the keyword arguments, then dot items, so the items that are passed here, so we need to check if it has attribute. So if it has attribute address and that field, so we need to set it. Okay, so we're gonna say, so just come here and you say set attribute. So set that attribute. This is how you update them. So then we're gonna say what? We set those attributes, then field, so then the value. Okay, so for that field and its value in that address, so then we need to do what? We need to come outside that one. After you have set them, then you need to save the address. Okay, so address dot save, like that. Then you need to return that address. So that's how you do what? The update for our addresses. Okay, so then we need to use it in our view to be able to do that. So just come here and you do what? Then you need to say address. So the address here, we need to use the account service dot what? Update address. So update address, then you need to say request. So request dot user, that is what we need to pass there. Our address ID, address ID. Also we need to pass what? The serializer. So serializer dot what? The validated data, or validated data, like that. So then we need to return. So we need to have the return. After we update that one, we need to return the response. So the response here, we just need to serialize our data. So we're gonna say address serializer, then you pass what? Then you pass the address, the updated address, and also you need to make sure that we get the data from the serializer. So then from there, if our serializer is not true, so if it is not valid, you just need to return the bad request. Okay, with the errors. So just need to copy this one, and then you're gonna come here. If it is not valid outside that one, just need to paste it there. Okay, so then from there, the next thing that we need to do for the next section, so for the next part, we're gonna handle the delete, and also we need to have the endpoint for handling what? To set the default address, and also we need to have what? Now the URLs. So let us meet in that section. Now in this part, we said that we're gonna handle the part for the delete. So we're gonna say else if. So else if, make sure that we are in the same column. So we're gonna say request, if request dot method, so the one that will be responsible for deleting. So if it is delete, so we need to use the the service to do that. Okay, so that we're gonna be able to remove it from the what, from our database. So just need to come here, so just come below this one. So this one we're gonna say at static method. So at static method, so static method, then you're gonna say def, then you're gonna say delete address. So then you're gonna say user, then you're gonna say address ID, the one that is being deleted, and also the user. So this one gonna delete an address, so gonna say address is equals to address. So the address here gonna say objects. So first of all you need to get it, so just need to say ID is equals to our address ID, so that is associated with that user. From there now we need to just delete it. Okay, so just say address, that address, when you find it, you just need to delete it like that. So that is it. So that is the method for doing what, for deleting. You see, it is very simple. We just need to call those methods. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do is to use it. So account service dot delete address. So then we need to pass the request, so the request user, so that we're gonna have the user and also the address ID, the one that is being deleted. Then from there we just need to return the response. So the response here we just need to have what, so here you just need to have the response. So the response here is just the status code. So the status, so is equals to status dot what, status dot http 204 no content. Okay, so that is it. Then from there, if our try fails, we need to catch that exception. So we need to say except exception as E. Just need to do what, we need to return if that fails any of them. So we just need to do it, to return the response. Then the response here gonna have the error, so we're gonna say error. So this one will be the string of what, of that exception. And then from there we need to have the status code. So we're gonna say status is equals to our status dot what, http 400. So 400 and what, 4 not found. So that is it. So let me save that one and put it there like that. So that is the part for address detail. So then the next one, it is the one that we're gonna use to set the default address. So we're gonna say at API view. So at API view, this one will be a post method. So we're gonna say post. So post method, then also we need to make sure that they are authenticated. So we just need to have the permission classes. So we're gonna say is authenticated, so they must provide their tokens. So then we're gonna say def, then we're gonna say set, set default address. So set default address. So set default address, then we need to have the request and also for the address ID, the one that we are setting to be the default. So here we just need to try. So to try here we need to use the account service to do that. Okay, so just need to come to our account service here, and then we need to have the method that will be responsible for what, for that. So just need to make sure it's a static method, and also we need to make sure that we do what, we use the transaction atomic, so that to make sure that if it succeeds or if it fails, we just roll back. So just say atomic like that. Then we need to say def, then you're gonna say set default. So set default address. So set default address, then you're gonna pass the user and also the address ID. Okay, so then from there we need to set an address as a default. So first of all, we need to have the address, so the one that we need to get that one address before we do anything. So we're gonna say address.objects. So .objects.get, we need to get the one that is associated with that ID, the one that is being passed here, so the address ID, and also for that user. Okay, so they must be there. So first of all, we need to unset all the other default addresses. So we're gonna say address. So we're gonna say address.objects. So .objects.filter. So we need to get the ones that are associated with that user, and then we're gonna check if the ones that are what is default. So it's default to true. If it is true while filtering, we need to update them. Okay, so you just need to set them as default. So it's default here, you need to make sure that it is false. Okay, so then from there we need to set this one, the one that is passed here, the one that we found as a what, as the default. So we're gonna say address. So address dot what is default. So if it is default here, you're gonna set it to true, that one, and then we need to do what, we need to save it. Okay, so to make sure that we save them, so like that. So then from there just need to return that address, the one that we have updated there. So that is it. So now after you have done that, now we can use it in our views here. So we need to say that one address is equals to what, our account service dot what, set default address. Then for the user, gonna say request, so request user, and also we're gonna have the address, so address ID, so address ID, like that. So that is it. So then from there we just need to do what, we need to, so this one should be address, so address ID there. So then the next thing that we need to do, we need to return the response. So the response here, we need to have that address but serialized one. So we're gonna say address, then we need to do what, we need to get the data. So that is the one that we're gonna send to the user. So then from there, if our try fails, we just need to accept that exception. So just say accept, so accept exception as what, as E. Then we need to do it, I'm gonna just use this one, not found, like that. Then I'm gonna paste it here, so the string of that one. Okay, so that one marks the end of what, our views. So now we need to be able to have them, so that we'll be able to have the URLs, the ones that will be responsible for getting them. So we need to create the URLs for this app. So just need to say URLs, so urls.py. So then we need to have some few imports. So we're gonna say from Django, so from Django.urls we need to import the path from it. I'm gonna say path, and then from there we're gonna say from REST framework, so REST framework SimpleJWT. So this is for tokens. So for token review, the one that gonna use to do the token refresh, so gonna say import token, so token refresh, so refresh view, we need that view. Then from there we need to say from we can say from views we need to import what, import views, or instead of that we can just do it in a simple way. So we're gonna say from this folder, so just need to import the views, so import views instead of importing one by one. So then we need to use the URL patterns, so that we'll be able to do it, to have them here. So the first one that we need to have it is for the authentication, so the URLs that are handling the authentication. So we're gonna say path, so this one, the first one, we need to have the one that we're gonna use to register, so make sure that you put that / there. Then we're gonna say views dot register, the one, that method. Then for the name, just do it, just say name is equals to what, is equals to register, that is it. Then we need to put comma there. Also we need to have the next one, it is the one that is responsible for logging in, so login. The same case, you're gonna say views dot what, login, so that, like that. Then the name will be what, the login. Okay, so also from there we're gonna have the path. So now for the token refresh. Okay, so remember this one, because this one will be responsible for that. So we're gonna say token, so token, then we're gonna say refresh, like that. Then you're gonna use what, the token refresh view, token refresh view, so token refresh view as view. So this is because it is a what? It is a class, which you can also decide to not to do the function based views. You can do the class based views. Okay, so name, then here gonna say what? Gonna name it token. So token refresh. So token refresh there. So then the next one that we need to do, we need to have the endpoints for profile. So the profile here gonna say path. So for profile there, so remember to put / also here, don't forget that one. So then in this one we need to say views. So from the views we have the profile, so that profile there, then also we need to have the name. So the name here will be what? It will be profile. Also from there we need to have the one for the FCM token. So we're gonna say FCM, so FCM token, like that. Then we do what? We need to say views dot what? So views dot update what? FCM token, like that. Then we need to do what? We need to have the name. Then for the name we're gonna say what? We're gonna copy this one instead of typing all of it. So Control C, then I'm gonna paste it here, and then from there we do what? So we come here, then we need to have the endpoints for addresses. So addresses, so far we have not done the migration, so that is the thing that we're gonna do before we go to testing. So we're gonna say addresses, I'm gonna put it in what? So path, we're gonna say addresses. So addresses, like that. Then we need to do what? We're gonna say views. So views dot what? Addresses. So addresses, like that. Then we need to have the name. So the name, it will be what? Our addresses. So which we're gonna copy this one, and then we're gonna put it there, then we're gonna paste it there, then like that. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the path. Also we're gonna say addresses. So the addresses, so addresses, then we need to get the one for getting the details. So we're gonna use the UID. So UID, like that, so which will be our address ID. Okay, so make sure that you have it in that URL, like that. So then we're gonna say views dot what? Our address details. Okay, so that one. And then also we need to have the name. So the name, we just need to copy this one, and then we're gonna say name. So name is equals to what? Name is equals to that. So then from there also we need to have the one for getting the, for setting the default. So for setting the default, I'm gonna just copy this one instead of typing all of it, and I'm gonna come here, I'm gonna paste it here. So this one will be like that for that ID. Then also we need to do it when I go to that endpoint, so set default, so like that. Then for the views here we need to use what? The set default address. So then I'm gonna copy this one, then for the name just use that one. Okay, so that is it. So now the next thing that we need to do, so make sure that you have those endpoints. So now we need to register them in our main URLs. So in our main URLs, I'm gonna use a different pattern. So first of all, we need to clear all of this one, so that we're gonna have a clean that part. Okay, so also we need to make sure that we use the include, because we're gonna use it. So include there, and also we need to set up everything for our application. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna use also to add the static files and other things. Okay, so that is what I need to do here. We're gonna say from Django, so django.config, we need to import settings. Also we need to import the static, so which will come from the django.config.urls.static. we need to import static. Okay, so static, like that. Also we need from the DRF spectacular for the API documentation. So we're gonna say from DRF spectacular.views. So .views, we need to import what? We need to import some few views here. So the one which is the spectacular API view. Also we're gonna say spectacular swagger. So swagger view, that one. And also we need to have the spectacular redoc view, that one. So that is it. So let me save this one, and then from there what I need to do here, just need to come below this one, and then what I'm gonna have a comment here. I'm gonna say API version 1. Okay, so this one will be version 1 URL patterns. Okay, so this is where we're gonna put the version 1 for our patterns. So we're gonna name it API v1. So API v1, then we're gonna name it what? Patterns. So it's a list. So in the list, you just need to have the authentication. We're gonna start with the authentication. So authentication here, just say path. So this one, we're gonna use that one for auth, and also we need to include what? We need to include the accounts. So the accounts, the name of our what? Of our app. So accounts. So in the accounts we have what? The URLs. Okay. So then also we need to put comma there. So then the next thing that we need to do it is to register our URLs in our what? For version 1. So this one we need to have a comment here. Then we're gonna say API. So API version 1, like that. Then we're gonna name it path. So remember that we're gonna use this one, API, then version 1 most of the time. So remember that one, so that you won't be surprised where you are getting them. So include that one. Then we need to include what? Our API version 1 patterns. Okay, so then also we need to include for the documentation. So we're gonna say, gonna come here, gonna say API documentation. So API documentation. So documentation. So API documentation here. So we just need to have the path. So the path here, we need to have the API schema. So this one we're gonna use it when we be doing the documentation. So spectacular API view. So dot what? As view. So as view, like that. Then from there you're gonna have the name. So the name here, gonna name it what? Schema. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to have what? We need to have the path. So then we're gonna say API. Then we're gonna have the docs. So then from there, the docs, make sure that we have the / there. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to have the spectacular swagger. Okay, so swagger view. So dot as view. So as view, like that. Then here, what we need to do, we need to provide the URL name. So the URL name here is equals to what? Is equals to schema. Okay, so schema. And also from there we need to do what? We need to come outside that one. Then we need to have the name. Okay, so the name here, we need to name it Swagger UI. Okay, so Swagger UI. So this one should not surprise you if you have never seen it. So this one we're gonna do it later. So then from there, the next thing that we're gonna do, we need to have the one for the redoc. So we're gonna say path. So path here, gonna say what? API redoc. So API redoc. Then we're gonna do what? We need to have the spectacular redoc view dot what? As view. So then we're gonna say URL name is equals to schema. And also we need to have the name. So then we're gonna say name is equals to what? Redoc. So that is it. So that one marks that end of that part. Okay, so then the next thing that we need to do, we need to be able to have the way that we're gonna serve the what? The media files in the development. So let us go, and we're gonna do that in the next part. So now after I have done that, for us to be able to serve the media files in development, so just need to come here. First of all, you need to check if the settings. So from the settings .debug. So .debug. So the debug, if it is true, you just need to say the URLs patterns. So the URLs patterns, then you need to to add them here. So we're gonna say static. So the static here, gonna say settings. So in the settings we need to create this media URL. So we're gonna say media URL like that. Then the document root, I say document root. So the document, so document root. So the document root here to be what? Settings. Also this one we need to create. Okay, gonna say media, so media root. Okay, so media root there. So then later you're gonna add the static and others. Okay, so that is it. So now the next thing that we need to do, we need to come to our settings so that we'll be able to add these two. So for media, so just come here and then we need to do what? Gonna not like that. So here we need to say media file. So media files. So this one for the media URL. So the one that we have added there. So the media URL here, we just need to put it in the media folder like that. And also for the media root. So media root is equals to what? Is equals to the base directory. So base directory, then we need to add what? We need to make sure that we go to the media. Okay, so that is it. So now the next thing that we need to do after you have done that, we can be able also to do for the part for the spectacular for documentation. So just need to come here. So here gonna say API. So API documentation. So documentation. So documentation here we need to have the spectacular. So spectacular. So spectacular settings. So this one we just need to have the what? Some few things here. So for the title. So the title here gonna give it what? Gonna give it our fashion. So fashion E. Then we're gonna say commerce. Commerce API. So API like that. Then we need also to do what? We need to have the description. So description. So description here we need to do what? We're gonna say agentic. Should be in quotes. So we're gonna say agentic fashion e-commerce platform. Okay, so platform like that. So we're gonna say with ML powered recommendation. So recommendations like that. Then the version. So the version here. So this one, because it's the first version, we're gonna put it as 1.0.0. and also we need to serve the include schema. We don't want it, so we're gonna say serve. So serve include schema. So include schema here, gonna set it to false. So that is it. So that is the thing that we wanted to do that. So now the next thing that we need to do now, it is to do the migrations. So we just need to come to our terminal. So we need to come to our terminal here. So in our terminal here, what we need to do, it is to first of all to create the migrations. So then we're gonna say Python. So to create the migrations, we're gonna say Python manage.py. Then we're gonna say make migrations. So make migrations for what? For accounts. Okay, so now we have what? We have the, we need to have these things. Okay, so that we'll be able to use the PostgreSQL. We need to make sure that we have installed the Psychog, so that we'll be able to interact with what? With our PostgreSQL. Okay, so just need to say pip. So pip install. So what we need to install here, gonna say Psychog. So Psychog, gonna use the binary. So binary. So Psychog pg, then binary. Okay, so that is what we're gonna use, so that we'll be able to interact with what? With our database. So like that. So then we need to create the migrations. So also we have the what default. It seems like also we forgot to add the Django filters, so we're gonna say pip install Django filters, like that, so that it will install that one. So Django filters. So I think I have an issue with this spelling. So pip install Django filter, not filters. So Django filter. Okay, so after you have installed that, let us see whether we forgot about something else. So we have what? We have the permission user, the auth user dot that one. So we have what? Yeah, because you're using the image, you need to install pillow. So just need to do what? Just come here, pip. So pillow is for managing the images. So you need to make sure that you have the pillow also. Even though if you're gonna get the requirements.txt file, so just need to run it once, and then all the other things you won't bother about them, so just do them as easy as that. Okay, so then also you have what? An issue with what? So now we are encountering this issue for all the user permission. So accounts user, that one. So because we have not yet set we have not yet told our system to use the custom user, so just need to come here back. So just come below this one or somewhere you want. So then we need to have the custom user what? So the custom, so I'm gonna say custom, so custom user model. So user model here. So you must tell Django that you have changed from the default model to what? So we're gonna say auth user model. So we're gonna use what? Our accounts. Okay, we're gonna say accounts dot user. Okay, so like that. So let us now see whether we'll be able to run, or we're gonna encounter other things. So just come here and we do what? First of all, let me clear that one, and then we do that. So you can see it has created that one. So just need to do what? So we have some few warnings. So we have what? Got an error, consistent migration performed, default connection server to localhost, that one requires a value. Okay, so then from there we need to do what? So we have the issue with the options. So just need to do what it is complaining about. So let us go back to our code, and then we need to check some few things. So in our code, where are we? So first of all, we need to check. So the database port should be what? It should be the 54.2, and then we have what? The local host for the DB host, and also for the DB user, that is that. And then from there we have what? So let us come here. Let us check something here in our out. So here in our options, we passed what options. Here we had what? Yes, 54. Okay, that is good. And then from there we have what? The options. Here we passed options. So then also we have the search path. So this one should be connected, even though I don't think it has an issue, that part. So let us see whether we're gonna encounter the error or not. So let us come back to our terminal and see whether we're gonna have any issue. So we don't have any other issue. So let us do now the migrations. I'm gonna say python manage to do the migrations, just say python manage.py, then you need to migrate. Okay, so as you can see, it is applying all the changes and it is okay. Okay, so that is it. Now we have the data. So the next thing that we need to do, now we need to make sure that we run our database, not our database, our server. So which you're gonna python manage.py, then you can say run server. Maybe you can pass the default or not. Okay, so that is it. Now we need to go to our Postman to test those endpoints, then we're gonna be able to start working on the front end. So that one we're gonna do in the next chapter, or the next section, the next part. So let us go and meet in that part. Now in this chapter, so in this part, what we are going to do before we go to the Postman, first of all I need to make sure that I love to run it with the custom URL. So I'm gonna say 0.0, so that even when I come to front end, so I won't be able to come and change this one. So I wanted to run there, so make sure that you run it in what, in that one, then also in that port. Okay, port 8001. So then after we have done that, now we can be able to come to our Postman and we start working on it. So when you come to the Postman, so when working in a project, so you just need to create a collection where you can put your folders, and then after putting your folders, then you can be able to create your collections there, to your request and other things. Okay, so this one will be doing some tests, and also we're gonna be able to create the environments variables like that. So what we need to do, I need to come here. The first thing that you need to do, first of all, you need to create environments, so that you'll be able to have some few variables that we're gonna put there. So the first thing that we need to do, you need to come here in the environment. So just click this environment, then there's this create new environment. So this one we're gonna call it, let us call it the fashion e-commerce. So e-commerce course. Okay, so that is the environment variable, the environment name. So then you need to make sure that you save that one. So when you look at this one, we have the variable and the value. So the first thing that we need to initialize it is our base URL. So the base URL, so this one is the base URL without the version for the application. So we're gonna say HTTP, then we're gonna have the localhost. So localhost, then we're gonna run it in 8001 because we are running it there. Okay, so then also we need to have the API URL. Okay, so this one we need to make sure that we use this one. So for you to be able to use a variable, you just use the double braces like that, then you do what, base URL like that, then you do what, you close it like this. So as you remember, we created that one with the what, API, then API version 1. Okay, that is it. Then also we need to create the variables for access token. So access token, even though these ones we won't assign anything currently, this one will be assigned when we're gonna use the Postman to test. Okay, so to run our test, so this one will be populated that time. So refresh token like that, and also you need also the user ID, because we're gonna use them later. So after doing that, now we need to save. So for you to be able to use these environment variables, you need to make sure that you come here. As you can see here, we have the drop down where you can be able to have your environment variables. So I'm gonna choose the one that we created, that is that one. Okay, so that is it. So after doing that, now we can be able to come back to our collections. So the collections, this is where now you put your request. So we need to create the new collection. Okay, so I'm gonna just click here, then I'm gonna create a blank collection like that. Then then we're gonna give it a name. So the name that I want to give this one collection, so the one that's gonna have all our requests, so in the folders. So we're gonna say fashion e-commerce, so fashion e-commerce collection. So remember, gonna provide the markdown for this one. So that is it. So then after we do that, now the first thing that we need to do, as you can see, now we are in this one and the collection is empty. So first of all, I want to create a new folder. So the folder, the one we're gonna put all the request for the authentication. So this one we're gonna name it part 1. So part 1 like this, then we're gonna name it authentication. Okay, so authentication like that. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need now to create the new request. And then so for the request, before we do the request, so let us first of all come here. So let us go back to our code for backend. And then when you come in this part, so the reason why we have the base URL, then we have what? We have the API URL. So the API URL, so this one is the one that we are calling there, the API v1. And now for us to be able to send the request, you can see we have different methods for the API view. For that part, we have the post, and then we need to provide the data that is required, okay, for you to be able to register. When you come to the registration, you can see we have these 3 things that you can provide. You must have the 2, but this one is a choice, so that's why we need to do it. So let us go back to the Postman, and then we do those tests so that we'll be able to see whether we encounter errors or not. So now when you click these 3 dots here, so you need to add the request. So the request here, the first one that we want, it is for the user registration. So just say user. So this one we're gonna say user registration. So user registration like that. So this one, it's a post method as you saw. So then from there you need to make sure that you use what? Use the double braces, then you pass the base URL, okay, like that. So then after we do the base URL, you need to make sure that you add what? Now we don't need to use the base URL because we have the API, our API URL. Okay, so we have that one, which has what? As you hover above it, you can see we have the base URL, then we have the API, then version 1 like that. Then from there we have the auth, where we have what? The register. So the register, like that. Make sure that you put that / there. So then from there, as you saw in the request, we had what? We had the JSON that we need to send to the backend. So for you to be able to do that, you need to make sure that you come here. So here in the headers, okay, so in the headers you just select multiple things. So as you can see, this one has just added the application JSON, so which we need, okay, so that is it. So now we need to provide that application JSON. So the reason why this one is being populated is because I used what? So let me remove this one first of all. So it's because it has populated from the previous test that I had done. So when you come here in the headers, so you need to click there, then we have the content type. So the content type that you want to pass here is what? It is for the JSON, so you need to use the application JSON, so like that. Then from there you need to come here in the body. So in the body you need to pass the JSON. So for you to be able to pass the JSON, you just put the braces like that. Then from there you just need to say the email, because the email we need, so remember the spelling. So then you just need to provide, I'm gonna provide this one, the john.do.example, like that. Then from there you need to have a comma, so that you'll be able to provide the password. So the password, we're gonna provide that one, and also we're gonna provide for I'm gonna provide also the phone, so the phone also like that. So as you can see now it looks like that. So we can be able to put them just below each other there it won't make any difference. So that is it. So then from there we have this part for the scripts. So this is the part that you can run you can use JavaScript to write your test, visualize the response and more. So what we're gonna do, we have the pre-request. This is before the request is sent. We need to, maybe you want to test something, and also we need to give what the post request. So after the request is done, so after we get the request, so the response. So that is it. So now when you come to our backend, so here in the backend you can see that when we register, so we need to come to the part for registration. So when you come here in the register, you just register the user. So when you create the user, so what you expect from the response is what? We have the different things. We have the user, so the user with the user serializer, and also we need also the tokens. So in the user we're gonna have the data of the user, and also in the part for tokens we need to have the tokens there, the refresh token and also the access token. So that is it we want. So what we're gonna do, we need to run the test so that we'll be able to see whether we're gonna be able to see that one. So now for you to be able to write those tests, so the ones that this one you're gonna require after the request, so we need to create them. So the Postman test scripts here. So what we need to do, the first test, it is what we're gonna say test. So test one. So test one, we're gonna say status. So status code is 201. We need to test that one. If the status code it is 201, so for you to be able to do that, you just use the Postman. So PM, so then PM, then you're gonna call the test. Okay, so the test here we're gonna say status. So status, so this one we just need to understand some basic JavaScript. Even it's not necessary because they're gonna provide the code, so this is for testing purposes. So then from there we're gonna say we have the function. So the function here like that. So this is how you write JavaScript. So here what you need to do, you need to make sure that you close it there with semicolon there. So then here we need to come in this function, we need to check something. So we're gonna say from the Postman we need to either we have what you can see we have Postman response. So inside this one object contains all the information pertaining that response was received. So then we need to check if it have the status of 201. So that is the first test. So then the second test, we're gonna say test 2. So we're gonna look whether the response body, we need to say contains. So what we're gonna do here, I don't want to say contains, so we're gonna say has what? So we're gonna say has user object. Okay, because we are expecting the user to be sent there. So we're gonna say pm.test. So .test there, then we're gonna say response. So response has user object. Okay, so that is it. So then from there you need to have the function. So the function here we do it like that, then also we close there. So then from here we need to, so for us to be able to get that one, we need to have our JSON data, the one that we're gonna get from there. So we're gonna use the constant, so the constant keyword. So JSON, we're gonna say JSON data is equals to, we're gonna say pm dot response dot. So we're gonna say like that. So then the next thing that we need to do, now we have the response. So then from there the next thing that we need to use now this variable. So we're gonna have this one. So from that one we need first of all to check if we have the property. So as you can see, we expect that one from the JSON data to have what? Property. So this property, it is the user. Okay, so because we are providing the user there. So then the next thing that we need to do, the part for testing the tokens. If you're gonna receive the, gonna say test 3. So test 3 here, gonna check response has what? Has tokens. Okay, so then from there we need to say pm.test. So we're gonna say .test, gonna use that one. So response has tokens, so function like that. So we need to close it there, not there. So we need to make sure that we are there. So then you do what? We close it there like this. So then after we do that, now we need to have the JSON data. So the JSON data, we just need to copy this one, and then I'm gonna copy all of this one so that we'll be able to use it here. So then we have the JSON data. So what we need to check it is the property, if it has the tokens. Okay, so I say tokens. So then from there, the next thing that we're gonna check, if inside the tokens, so if the inside the tokens, we're gonna say pm, then we need to check inside the tokens, this one, so the one that we get. So we need to have a property named access. Okay, so remember we have the access token there, the access, the one that we are returning like that. And also we're gonna check whether we have the tokens to have a property refresh. So that is it. So that is the third test that we need to run. And also now the next test that we're gonna check, we need to check whether the email matches the one that we send. Okay, so we're gonna say test4. So test4 here, gonna say email, so email matches. Okay, so then we're gonna say pm, so we're gonna say email matches the request like that. We need to close here, then we need to close it here also. So here inside this one, we need to have the constant of that JSON data. So from the JSON data, we need to check. So we don't want to use this one. We're gonna say pm, then we're gonna say expect. So we need to expect from the JSON data, so user email like that. So then we need to equal to, we don't want to have it like this, so let me bring this one. I don't want to use this style, we want to use the, it is equal to that one. So we're gonna check whether it's equal to the john.do at example.com. Okay, so then you put semicolon there. So now the next, after we have done that test to test whether the email matches, so the next thing that we need to do, we need to save now those tokens so that we're gonna use them. So we're gonna say save here, gonna say save, so save tokens, so save tokens to environment like that. So then if we need to first of all check if the from the response, so if from the response dot code, so if it is equals to 201, so like that, then we need to do what? So we need to save them. So from the JSON data, so is equals to pm dot what dot response. From the response we have the JSON, so we need to get it there. So then we need to set the environment variables. So we're gonna say, so this one, so as you can see, this one is just like that. So then we have to set the access token like that. Then also from there, just need to say, we just need to call the environment. So the environment there, then we also set the refresh token, the one that we created, so in the environment variable. So then we need to get the refresh from the response, and also we need to make sure that we have the user ID. So we need to set user ID like that, get it from the user, then like that. So that is it. So then also we can be able to console.log. So this is just to print in the console. So console.log. So then you're gonna say tokens saved to environment. Okay, so like that. So that is our test, and we have the body. The body, it is the request that we are sending, and also we have the headers for the content type. So that is it. So now we can be able to run it to send the request to see whether we'll be able to see the response. So let us wait for it. So now we are experiencing an error, so we need to go and check the error. So let us check that error. So we need to come here in the terminal. So as you can see, we have the issue with the date joined, So we need to go to our backend and check whether we had a typo. So I think it is. So when you come to the user serializer, we have the date joined. So then when you come to our models, we need to check. So as you can see here, we have a spelling issue, so we need to make sure that we do what, we pass the date joined, and also we need to update what, our model. Okay, so we just need to come back to our terminal. So in the terminal here, you need to do what, you need first of all to stop the server running, then we need to make migrations. So gonna say python manage.py make migrations, so accounts, so like that. So you can see it was user data joined named here. Yes, now we need to make like that. Then we need to do what, we need to migrate. Okay, gonna say python manage.py, gonna say migrate. Okay, so that we'll be able to have the correct name. So like that. Then we need to run the server. So then from there we need to go back to our Postman. Then we test it again to see whether we're gonna be able to send the request again. Okay, so we need to send the request. So user with this email already exists because it was created, but in the response we got the error, so we need to register another one. So what we're gonna do here, we just need to remove this dot here like that. Then also in the scripts you need to make sure so that we'll be able to have the one that is matching, so we need to remove also this one. So then from there we just need to send. Okay, as you can see, it is 201 created. So when you look at this response, we have the user, so the user with the data from the ID, from the email, from the phone. So the phone, we didn't create that one, so gonna check why it was not created. Then from there we need to have the date joined like that. So then also in the tokens we have the refresh and we have the access. So when you come to the test results, so all of them have passed. Okay, all tokens were saved. When you look at this one, the tokens were saved to the environment. So that is it. So now we need to remove that console there. Then the next thing that we're gonna do from the next sessions, so for the others, I'm gonna use the existing ones. So because I'm gonna provide the test and other things, so we're gonna copy them from the markdown files, or we can copy them directly from the one that I'll be showing. So then we'll be going through instead of typing all of these ones. So but I think at this point you're able to understand how to use Postman, and you're able to do the test and be able to do the request, even though I'll be explaining more as we continue. So let us go back there and we start doing that thing. Okay, so that is it. So let us meet in the next section. So now for us to be able to save time and walk through the other parts, so what I'm gonna do, I need to shift my folder from this one. So I want to use this one already that I've created. You can see we have the different parts that we'll be going through. So let me open this one. So we have the user registration, and then from there the next thing that I need to do, I need to change the environment. I want to use the local like that. Okay, so then from there what I need to do, I need to change this thing. So from the backend, first of all I need to remove it. So what I'm gonna do, first of all we need to create a super user. So let us go to the terminal. So in our terminal here we need to create a super user so that we'll be able to go to the admin panel. So like that, then we're gonna say Python. For you to create a super user, you just need to say python manage.py, then you create what, create super user. So like that, the email here gonna provide general at gmail.com, and also for the password gonna use my own password here, the one that I want. gonna use it. So the super user has an invalid format. It must be that one. The super user value is invalid. So let us go and check that one. So first of all, need to go to our code. So to our code, there we have what issue with the super user. So super user like that. So if you can check well, you can spot the error where we have the error, because here we are creating the user and then we are passing the arguments that are not keywords. That's why also it was not saving the phone. Okay, so we need to make sure that you pass the double asterisk there. So now we need to go back. So we need to go back to our terminal and we do it again. So we need to clear this one first, then we do what? We create the super user. So I'm gonna say general@gmail.com. So as you can see, it was created successfully. So we need to clear that one, and then from there the next thing that we need to do, so let me run the server, and then we need to go back to our, now we're gonna go to the browser. So I need to open the browser here. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, we need to come here and we're gonna say localhost. So localhost, then with that port 8001. Okay, so then we need to go to the admin part. Okay, so that is it. So now the super user we created, it is general@gmail.com. so then from there we need to have the password, so like this, then we need to log in. Okay, so like that. So then we're gonna say never, or we can just save them. So as you can see, currently we don't have the user, so we need to register them to our admin. Okay, so we need to register those models there. So what we're gonna do, we need to register them. So what you do is that you go to the admin.py file, then you need to create them. So what I'm gonna do, I want to do it manually. That one I'm gonna paste it, and also this one I'm gonna provide to the code that you're gonna get in the GitHub. It will be there. So for the admin part, we'll be doing like that, so that we'll be able to go fast and then be able to finish it. So let us go to the code. So what I'm gonna do here, I need to come and paste it here. So in the admin.py file, so this one, I need to replace this one with that code. Okay, so as you can see, we have different parts. So where we register our models there. So from the user to the other parts. Okay, so then we show them like that. So that is it. So now after we do that, we can be able to see, even though this one gonna get it from the code in the GitHub. So then we have the different things, fields, where like that. So that is it. So now I won't be spending the time to explain how to format the admin part. So you need to make sure that you can try to understand it, even though it's not hard, it's just simple. So now we need to go back to the browser. So in the browser here, we need to refresh it. So when you refresh it, you can see now we have the users, profile, and addresses. So then we need to come here. So as you can see, we have the issues with what is stuff. So we have the issue with the orders into the field. So we need to make sure that we remove that one first of all, even though we're gonna use it later, because we're gonna use it in the part for orders. So we need to come here in the backend, and we need to go back to the admin where we have what, the orders. So we need to find it when I say orders. So you can see here we have issues with the orders. So we have that part. So when it comes to orders here, we need to make sure that we comment this code first. So you need to make sure that you comment them like that. So you just comment it like this. So then later we're gonna come to change them, okay, so that you'll be able to show them later. So make sure that you do that if you copy that one. So let us now go back to the backend, to the browser, so that we'll be able to refresh and see whether we have other issues. So now what we need to do, we have an issue. So let us go to the terminal. So terminal, we have the issues there, the to order count list display order count like that. So let us check. So in our code we have something like order count. So let us see in the list display. So this one, so what I'm gonna do, I need to move it below this one so that I can be able to comment that out. Okay, so we need to do like that. So now I think that error should disappear. So when you come here, you can see it has disappeared. So now we need to go back to the browser, then we refresh again. So like that, now we have the users that we created. So what I need to do, I need to clear both these ones, so that we'll be able to use the new files, the ones that we are, the test that we are going to do. Okay, so we're gonna delete them like that. So now let us come back to the Postman, and we test again, so that we'll be able to do what, to send that data to the backend again. So now we're gonna use that one, which I think also when you come to login, let me see what we are doing. Okay, so first of all, you need to register. So for the registration, so let us register. It is the same thing as we did in the previous. So as you can see, this one now register, it's able to save the phone number. It's because the last time we didn't pass the two asterisk there, okay, the double. So then also you have the token and others. So when you come to the test here, so the reason why the UI for Postman looks like this is because I've zoomed it. So that's why, because they should be aligned here when you use it the normal way, okay, or you can minimize there then to be able to see them like that, but I want you to be able to see what you are doing. So then after doing that, now you can be able to see, now we have them like that. So now the next thing that we need to do, we need to start doing the other test. And also before we do the other test, we need to check if it was added to the backend. So we just need to come to the browser. So when you come to the browser, you just need to refresh. So when you refresh, you can see we have the phone number, we have that one, and other details, okay, but it is not stuff. That's why we created it like that. So now let us go back to the Postman, and we do the other test in the next part. So now the next part that we want to test it is the user login. So what I need to do first, before we continue, we need to come to our login view. So when you come to the login view, so when you come here, so this is the register. So login, we need to provide what, the user login serializer. So the data that we are providing, it is the email and password. so that is JSON. So then after doing that, it will be authenticated. Then also we need to get the tokens for the user, and also the response should look like that. Okay, so now what we need to do here, and also the status code should be, it should not be 201. This one should be 200 because we have logged in. Yeah, even though it's not a must, we have the response code. This one we should, the status code, we can just remove it there. So now what we need to do, we need to have the user, so then, and also the tokens. Okay, so the user serializer will contain the user data, and also the token will be having the refresh token and access token. So now let us go and do the test. So let us come to our Postman. So here in the Postman, we need to first of all gonna minimize this one to come here. So now in here in the user login, so as you can see, it is a post method. So make sure that it is a post. Then we have the API URL. Then we're gonna go to the auth. Then we're gonna go to the login, and then the headers here, you need to make sure it's the content type, it is application JSON. Okay, so that is it. Then the body, we need to make sure that you provide the email, the one that you created in the previous part. So that is currently I'm using the one that we created in the previous session. So then from there we have the test. So here the test, we have them like this. So then we also update the tokens. Okay, so that is it. So we are just checking whether it's 200, also if it has tokens, and if the email is correct. We will check if it is the same, and also now we save the tokens like that. So now we need to send the request. So as you can see, it is 200. Okay, so then also we have the data for that user. And when you come to the, so when you come here to the test, let us see the test results. You can see they are okay. Okay, so that is it. So that's the part for testing the login. So now the next one that we need to do, we need to check the next one for the refreshing tokens. So we need to come here in the backend. So the endpoint that we'll be doing for refreshing the tokens, so token refresh. So we need to check this one. So we have this token refresh. Okay, so the one that is calling this class for token, the one that is refreshing the token like that. So then it calls the token refresh view like that. So this one will just refresh the token. So let us come back to the, so this one is comes with the REST framework JWT. So now we need to test it. So let us come back to our Postman. So, and when you refresh, you need to provide the refresh token, so that you'll be able to refresh. Okay, so let us come here, and then when you come here, we have we have the post. Then we need to have the API there, then token, then refresh. So that is the token refresh, then the URL. Then from there, the headers, you have the content type, which it is application JSON, and also you have the body. So the body, you need to make sure that you provide the refresh token, the one that we created, and then it was populated when we did the registration, and also when we did the login. So then also we have these scripts. So these scripts, first of all, we check if it is 200. Then we have the new access token. So from the request, and also we do like this. Then from there we just update the tokens. So that is it. So then we need to do we need to send that request. So as you can see now, it gives us the access here and also the refresh. Okay, so after we do that, we can be able to see if the test results are okay like that. And when you come to the console to see whether it was updated, so the tokens refreshed. Okay, so that is it. So then as we have done that, that is it. Now you need to remember the JSON that we get. Okay, so make sure that you're able to do it, to to make sure that you understand these feeds the way they look like, because you're gonna use them in the front end. Then from there, the next thing that we need to do it is to get the user profile. So to get the user profile, when you come to the backend, we have the user profile where it looks like what, like this. So user, when you come to the profile, then you come to this, so where we check if it is a get. When you get, you just need to do what, to get the profile serializer, and then we need to make sure it's authenticated. So we need to provide the access token here, so that you'll be able to do these things here. Okay, so the first one that we need to do, we need to get the profile serializer. So let us come back here. So when you come here, the first thing that you need to do, you need to make sure that you use the get method, and then from there provide the API URL, then the profile, and then from there we need to come here. So here in the headers, we need the authorization. So because of we have said it should be authorized. So then remember, we have the bearer, then access token. So when you come to the settings, so when you come to the settings in the backend, so here in the backend, you need to come to the what. So let me first of all minimize that one. So this one, I need to collapse that one. So when you come here, we need to, when you look at the JWT configuration, where is it? Here we have what, we have the bearer. It should have that name. Okay, for the header it should be bearer, then the access token. So let us come back to the Postman, and then we continue working on this part. So in this part, as I said, you should be able to do the API URL or then profile, and then for the headers you provide the authorization. So the authorization is when you click there, then you have the authorization, then you select that one. Then the value, you need to make sure that you start with the bearer, then you have the space, then you have the access token. Okay, so then from there, the body. So the body, we are not providing anything because we are not required to provide anything there. So then, because we are getting the profile, so then from there, just check for these things. So from the response, so that is it, from checking whether we have what, the status code is 200. If the data exists, that is either we have the user, we have the profile, like that, and then checking whether the user ID matches or not. Okay, so when you come here, so the response that we get, it is, we have the user. So you can see it's a dictionary inside, so it's a JSON inside JSON, that is the dictionary inside dictionary. So then, so we have the avatar, we don't have the avatar, gender, these are just null, so currently. So then the size system, this by default we provided them, so like that. Then we have the created art and also the name. So then from there, the next thing that we need to do, it is to update the profile. So to update the profile, when you come here to the backend, so here in the backend, you can see that when you are updating, when you come to the view, we just need to check if it is patch. So if it is patch, the method, if it is patch, first of all, we provide the data that we provide to the serializer. So that is it. So that data. So after that, this data we provided here, then we need to say partial, so it's not a complete update. So then also we have the context, so that we can have the URLs for them. So then we check if it is valid. If it is valid, we save it, and then we give the response. So in the response, we just provide that serializer. So let us come back here. So we need to make sure that we come to the Postman. So here in the Postman, as you can see here, the first thing, remember, we need to go to the auth, then profile, then you need to make sure the method it is patch. Then the headers here, you need to make sure that you provide the authorization, the bearer, then with the access token with the space there. Also the content type here, we need to make sure that we provide the application JSON, because for the feeds that we are going to update. Okay, so now here we have the data that we are going to update, even though you're gonna get them in the code. So make sure that you get it. So we update the gender, so then the preferred size, then the height in centimeter, then the weight in kg, then also we provide the style preferences, like that. So like that. So then also we need to have the scripts to test if the status code it is 200, the gender if it is updated, when we have that one. So then also we have that one for checking the preferred size updated, when we have the size it is L, like that. Then the preferences saved, when you have what, we have the favorite colors. So then we do what, we send that data to the backend. So we have a body request, so gender M, L it's not a valid choice, and others. So we need to come here, so we need to make sure that we do it. So let us check something. So let us come to the backend and then look at it. So when you come here in the backend, you can come to the models and we see the choices that we had for gender. So for gender you have the male, female, like that, and also for the sizes choices we have these small letters. So we need to change that one. So let us come back to our Postman. So in our Postman here, we need to change this gender. So gender should not be like that, it should be male, and then this one should be small l. Then from there we need to change the scripts. So the scripts here we need to make sure that we check if it is male, and also we need to check if it is small l. So that is it. So now we need to send it again. So as you can see now it is okay. So it looks like this. Then we get the user ID, then the gender, we updated that one, then the preferred size, favorite colors. So when you come to the test results, you can see all of them passed. So after doing that, now it is to create the address. So now to create the address, when you come to the Visual Studio Code, so here in the Visual Studio Code you can realize that when you are creating the address, so this one it will be done from the front end, so we want to test that one here, but we can still do it. So for the address we need to make sure the same thing we did with the profile. So this is to get the addresses, then from there for the post we create like that. Okay, so that is it. So let us come back to our Postman. So here in the Postman you can realize that we have what, so we have the auth, then you need to make sure that you come to the addresses, then it is a post method. So to create the address, because you want to create it, then you come to the headers. So the headers here we need to provide the authorization, because we are required to be authenticated. So then from there the content type, it is the application JSON, because you want to create them. So then when you come here, the address type, we have the address type home, then we have the John Doe, like that. So this one should be home the way we spelled it. You can just put it home like that. So then from there we have what, the country here, this one should be Kenya. You can just say United States. So United States, like that. So then the default is default, like that. So that is it. Then from there the scripts, we need to make sure that we check things like it has address ID, then also we're gonna check if it is true, and then if the city is correct, like that. Okay, so that is it. Then we save the address ID in the environment, so just click there. So you can see now we have been able to create the address from the address type, that is that one, the full name. As you can see, the response looks like this. So then from its default, it's true, like that. When you look at the test results, you can see it is okay. So that is the part for creating the address. Then we have the part for listing the addresses, so which we say that it is a get method. So just get it, so just make sure it is get, like that. Then we don't provide anything, so but we need to make sure that we provide the authorization. Okay, so then from there we have the scripts, so like that to test the to see whether you're gonna get the data like that. So that is it. You just need to get that data for that user. So then also you need to check the test. If they pass, you can see they have passed. Also the next thing it is to update. So to update the address, we do the same thing. So to update it, you need to make sure that you provide what? The authorization, and also you need to provide the content. So remember, we need to have the paths, because when you come here, when you come to the backend here, you have the what? You have the, so here in the address detail, because this is where you are doing the updating. So you can see if it is what? Put paths like that. You need to make sure that you are authenticated, and also you need to provide the address ID, the one that we're gonna get. Then we're gonna pass it to the serializer, and then like that, so that you'll be able to get that data. So then the next thing that we need to do, so let us come back here, so to our Postman. So here in the Postman, we realize that we provide the application JSON. Then from there, so then this one should be there, because you must have the address ID. Then also you need to update the street address and also the postal code, and then we have the scripts like that for testing. So we need to check if it is that, okay. So that is what is happening there. So as you can see, it is 200, okay, because we have updated them. So like that, when you come to the test results, it looks like that, okay. So then from there, we set the default address. We need to provide the what? The address that we want to set, and then the others will be what? So this one, you need to make sure that you provide the authorization, and also you don't need to have a body, you just need to provide the address ID, and then you set it to be the default. Then you can see it is 200, okay. Then when you check the test results, it is now default, okay. So that is it. So because you can check there. So then the last thing, it is to register the FCM token. So to register that one, you just need to do what? We just need to provide, we're gonna provide a random one, so just there. So then we need to make sure that we do what? We have the authorization. So the reason is because when you come here to the backend, in this part for backend, where you have the FCM token updating, so you need to make sure that you provide the FCM there. So then we're gonna get it. Then if it is there, just pass it there to the service, where it will gonna add it to what? You're gonna add it to the backend, and then we're gonna get the response like this message: FCM token updated successfully. So let us test it and see whether it will work. So come here, then you do what? Then you do, so as you can see in the body, so in the body you provide that one random, then just create a random one. Then also we need to check if you have the success message, then like that, okay. So as you can see, it is okay. So the message is that one, and also we do it like that. When you come to the test results, it's over. So that is the part for the authentication. Now we need to work on the front end. So in the next part, we're gonna start setting up the Flutter application in the front end. So let us go and meet in that section, that part.